Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second part of What If Naruto Became Juubi. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
He heard, yes she did, coming from behind a wall of shadows as two eyes with red rings looked at him. The man said, I have an offer to make to Zabuza. San. Zabuza thought to himself, well shit. He had no control over the man at that moment. His chakra was locked up, and he didn't have his sword. Who are you? The nuke. Nin with the less noticeable eyebrow asked the man with the ringed eyes. The man just laughed and said, I guess I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? As he came out of the shadows and into the light of the moon. He began, but Zabuza cut him off. I almost screamed, Minato Namikaze. The swordsman said. The man just made a face. Naruto yelled, no. I'm Naruto Namikaze. Why does everyone get me and him mixed up all the time? It's bad enough that it happens in Konoha, but now it happens outside of it too. He was furious that other people, like Zabuza, thought he was his father. Okay, I'm going to change the way my hair looks. The original Rakuto Sennin had hair that was pulled back and had two spikes that looked like horns. Maybe I'll copy that style. Yes, that will do, Naruto thought. So you're not Minato Namikaze? Zabuza asked the blonde, who was now angry and gave him a load, no. Okay, now what is this proposition you have? I'm useless now since I have now weapon or chakra, so tell me what you want. He smiled and said, oh, that's easy. I want to know about Gato. I want to know where he lives, where he keeps his slaves, and where he keeps his money. He looked Zabuza straight in the eyes. Now what would I get by telling you this? Zabuza asked the blonde, who gave him a mean look. The room was very tense at this point. One wanted to know something and the other didn't want to share it. Naruto told Zabuza, who was starting to sweat from the pressure, now tell me about your life. With a funny laugh, the blonde Juubi said, I'll give you the strength to take Kiri. Naruto replied. Zabuza asked Naruto, how many people do you need? The Naruto said, 100 Anbu. He had both Danzo and the Root Anbu on his side now. Root was made up of around 500 Anbu. He only had to persuade the Hokage that helping the rebels was a good idea. 100 strong men. Zabuza asked. How was it possible for one genin to call on so many ninja at once? It had to be a lie, though. Shinobis could not have that much power over a brat, no matter what he looked like or who he was related to. Lies. Naruto yelled, Root, as 5 Anbu fought back behind him. He smiled and said, these are Root Anbu. They were made to be perfect shinobi. The way they were trained took away a lot of their potential because Danzo killed their emotions, but they don't feel bad about killing or afraid of death. They are killing machines. Zabuza was now thinking about the blonde's offer. Zabuza asked Naruto, so if I agree, you will help me become Mizukage? Just to make sure he understood. The 5 Anbu were told to leave by Naruto, who said, correct Zabuza. San. If you agree, I will tell the Hokage to send Root Anbu to help you. He was aware that he held Zabuza in his hand. He didn't like using people as weapons, but he couldn't. They wouldn't let Haku and Zabuza die again. Fine, Zabuza sighed, I'll tell you everything about Gato as long as you meet one more condition. He looked down at the girl and said, please take Haku Chan with you. I know I treat her like she's weapon and for a while I believed that. But I recently started to think of her as more of daughter. While she has killed before, she is still too innocent to see war like that in Kiri. Zabuza told Naruto, who nodded. There was nothing good about war. Oh, great. I'll take Haku Chan with me. I'll protect her with my life. That's a promise for life, Naruto said with a soft smile that showed his evil red eyes. Naruto told Zabuza, oh, and I want to fight you when the war is over. He then left the room, leaving Zabuza to think. The demon thought to himself, I think I just let the devil out on Gato. He then fell back asleep. After 2 days, Naruto was getting ready to attack Gato's house. The council, the Hokage, and himself were the only ones who knew about it, along with Root. That's why he hadn't told his team. Haku destroyed his cloak during their fight. Naruto got a new outfit to wear until he got home. He was wearing a black muscle shirt and black pants that were too big for him. The holders for his kunai and shuriken were on his hip. He had put on an Anbu mask that he had made with the Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things. The mask was black with red eyes. As he jumped out of the room window, he told himself, it's time to go. Gado's house was right next to where he was, facing northeast. For a ninja, 3 miles wasn't far at all. Inamikaze and Uzumaki could run dozens of miles every day, and it never hurt that he was faster and stronger. He kept an eye out for any of Gado's men as he ran through the forest. He was on a small island, and he knew that going all out would cause a lot of trouble for the small island country if a Biju showed up there. After a few minutes of running very fast thanks to the Jinten, he reached a big building with a tall wall made of white stone around it. The building itself looked like a castle in the Japanese style. So this is where all the money he steals went. As Naruto walked up to the gates, he thought, makes me wish I had killed the midget the first time. One of the thieves watching over the castle yelled, halt. Who are you? Naruto didn't want to deal with them, so he just used Amaterasu to burn them to death. As the guard's screams of pain could be heard, everyone inside decided to go into high alert. Root, Naruto called, and 5 emotionless Anbu came to answer. Kill every bandit, thug, or nuke nin you see. Leave the slaves alone and make sure that Gado doesn't escape. Also I want Gado Teme for myself. I plan to be one to make him pay for all that he has done. Naruto gave the order. He was ready to Tsukiyomi Gado. The 5 called out, Hi Naruto. Sama. As they charged the castle. As Naruto walked into the big house, he didn't pay attention to the fighting outside. Sabukukaze would cut anyone who tried to get in his way. He wouldn't be this rough less normally, but these men were the worst people in the world. They bought slaves, stole, killed, and raped people. With a small Shinra Tensei, they broke down the wooden door to the house. He went down the halls until he reached his goal, which was Gado's office. He smashed the door off its hinges and walked right in on the knucklehead Gado, who was talking to a man with his hair pulled back. Gado smiled cockily and said, Oh, there you are, target. The man looked at Naruto with a crazy grin. The man stood up and asked, So you will be my next sacrifice to Jashin? Sama? He wore a black cloak with red clouds on it and a high collar. He opened the front of his cloak and saw what looked like a triangle inside a ring hanging down. Naruto whispered, Hidan. He didn't want to fight the Akatsuki, but it looked like he didn't have much of a choice. Naruto said as he faded behind Gado, So you're working with the Akatsuki now. Naruto roared as he stabbed Gado in the heart before Hidan could even react. But that's still not enough to save yourself. He yelled at Naruto as he charged at him with his triple scythe, Hey. That was how I made money, you motherfucker. Naruto was able to raise his sword and stop all 3 of them from hitting him. From the last time, he remembered that all Hidan had to do was drink your blood, then enter his ritual seal and stab himself. Naruto, on the other hand, was now immortal as the new Juubi. It wasn't smart to let your opponents know that. Or really anyone, because that could make him the target of a chase. He jumped back, put his sword away, and began making hand signs. Since Hidan was immortal, he didn't care and charged at the Juubi anyway. Katona the roar of a fire dragon. Naruto said as he pressed his hands together to make a tube and let out a breath. From the other end, a big stream of fire came out. Hidan couldn't dodge in time and ran straight into the fires. The fires destroyed the once billionaire's office completely. Hidan came out of the raging fires and tried to cut off Naruto's head. The key word was tried. When the scythe got close to Naruto's neck, time seemed to slow down. Hidan let out a huge grin when he thought about killing the blonde. Naruto, on the other hand, had something else planned. As he blurred out of Hidan's way, he told himself, Jinten. Shadow. Less flight. Naruto popped up over the fires and absorbed them back into himself while making more hand signs. Naruto yelled, Sweeten. Water Dragon Jutsu. A big stream of water came out of his mouth and formed the shape of a dragon. It took Hidan a direct hit from the water dragon, which went through the office wall and into the bloody back courtyard of the mansion. Hidan looked at the blood on the ground and said, Nice view. Naruto left his broken down office and faced Hidan. The nuke. Nin with silver hair had bad burns on his left arm and half of his cloak was on fire. The crazy shinobi laughed and said, "Damn brat, you are good. That's why you beat Itachi-san. But you can't kill me because I'm immortal." Naruto told the crazy person with pink eyes, "I know that. By killing people, the cult of Jashin can become immortal. I have met gods before, just like you," Naruto said as he threw 3 shurikens at Hidan, who didn't even try to avoid them. The crazy priest picked off the shuriken that was stuck to his body and said, "So you too worship a god? Well, maybe you should consider joining the cult of Jashin. It's a great thing, you gain immortality and can do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you do, I'll spar you since Jashin Sama will be displeased if I killed such a strong potential follower," Hidan said as he talked about his faith. Naruto started to sweat at this. Naruto said, "Sorry, but Jashin's immortality doesn't help me." He then took a ready stance. Things seemed to get serious for Hidan now. "You dare go against Jashin's will? Die, you maggot!" he yelled as he charged at Naruto again. Naruto charged as well when he saw that the fight wouldn't be ending anytime soon. Whenever Naruto got close, Hidan jumped over him and tried to stab him with the 3 blades on his scythe. This stopped Naruto in his tracks. He used Jinten to avoid the scythe again and then kicked Hidan in the back of the head. The silver-haired nuke. Nin hit the ground a few times before he went over and fixed it. He yelled, "Damn it! Die, you son of a b***tch," as he threw the scythe at Naruto, who dodged it. He smiled and pulled the wire on the scythe, which made it turn around and cut Naruto in half. Naruto's body turned into a log before Hidan could sing happy birthday. Naruto showed up to Hidan's left and pushed his hand up into his arm. Naruto jumped back, and Hidan fell backwards. When Hidan charged at Naruto again, he didn't care about his own safety. He yelled, "Is that all you have?" Naruto smiled as the man with silver hair tried to kill him and got ready to make some hand signs. Naruto finished his jutsu as the blade got close to his neck. Hidan heard Naruto whisper, "Hiraishin." Boundless throw into his ear as the immortal's blade was just inches from that of Hidan. Hidan disappeared in an instant. A long way away. Hidan quickly got to a big, flat piece of ice in the middle of the ocean. Something big was the only thing there besides him. There was nothing but the open sea around Hidan when he looked around. There were no icebergs for him to see. He yelled to himself, "What the hell?" as he quickly looked around to see if he could see anything far away. He yelled to himself, "Where the hell am I?" The only thing the penguin did was make a noise. Hidan turned around and glared at the bird that couldn't fly. "In 3 days, if I can't find a sacrifice, I'll put a spike through your behind and out of your throat." Even though they were different species, the bird seemed to understand and quickly turned pale. Going back to the wave. Naruto laughed as he went back inside Gado's castle to free the slaves. When he got to the lowest level of the building, he saw several jail cells full of people of all ages and genders. He walked down the halls and broke every lock to free the slaves. When he got to the last room, he heard muffled sobs. He broke down the metal door and saw a girl about his age with spiked mint green hair that was held back with an orange clip. Her skin was a deep caramel color. Naruto knew her as Fu, the Nanabi Jinchuriki. He asked her, "Fu, are you okay? You're a Taki Kunoichi, so why are you in one of Gado's jail cells?" Naruto asked her. She glared at him with her head raised. "Honey, why do you care? You're here to buy me and use me as a sex toy, just like the other slaves were." He heard her growl at him. He saw her try to call on the Nanabi's chakra, but the seals stopped her. He looked at her with sad eyes. Deidara was right, she did hate people. "Fu San, look, I'm not here to hurt you or the other slaves," he said. He told her, "I'm here to save all of you." Fu just scratched and turned her head away from him. "People, why would you save me? Did Taki finally realize they were wrong to sell me to Gado? Teme and send you to get me back?" she asked in a sarcastic way. Naruto's eyes got really big when he heard this. Taki had sold their Jinchuriki to Gado. Nobody in the hidden village would ever agree with that. Also, Shibuki would never do something like that. He was a coward, but not cold. Hearted enough to sell a girl into slavery. Naruto growled as his anger made his power rise. His appearance changed. His whiskers got darker and his eyes turned into their Tengen form. Fu's eyes grew wide when she saw this. Is he also a Jinchuriki? She asked herself as she saw the man show signs of being a Biju. Inside Fu the Nanabi, Chimei was going crazy because she thought the power was as strong as all the Bijus put together, which stood for one thing, the Juubi. Naruto calmed down enough after a few seconds to undo the changes. Sorry you had to see that, Fu-san. My name is Naruto Namikaze, he said as he freed her. Are you also a Jinchuriki? She asked. Tears were building up in her eyes as she looked at Naruto. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Are you a Jinchuriki? This time, Fu asked, not demanded. He smiled and said, no, I'm not a Jinchuriki. Fu's hope went down because she knew the man in front of her was not like her. I used to be a Jinchuriki. He yelled and pumped his fist. This made Fu's head snap up. Former. How the hell did you used to play the Jinchuriki? After the Biju is taken out, the host dies. I know this because I saw it happen to my mother. Fu yelled at the blonde, who smiled back, which surprised her. Naruto surprised her by saying, I've never had my Biju taken out since I turned into a demon. Fu's face looked like a fish. Her jaw had dropped and she was gasping. Naruto laughed at this. He loved making people react like this. Before Fu could ask me anything else, he spoke again. Let's get these people out of here now. What did Naruto say to the Jinchuriki? Because I'm sure they've been here for way too long, she replied. Naruto left the metal cell with her. The blonde demon led everyone out of the castle and back to freedom in the outside world. Fu kept looking over at Naruto every once in a while and asked, how were you treated when you were a Jinchuriki? Fu asked. She needed to know if she was the only one who was being mistreated or if it was normal for humans to do that to Jinchuriki. Naruto said with a sad smile, I was treated pretty much the same as you. Shops ignored me, charged too much, treated me badly, and sometimes beat me, Naruto said in a sad voice. Fu's hand clenched shut when he answered. Calm down, Fu-san. I wasn't done yet. They were mean to me until they saw what I could do. When I saved my village from destruction, they finally respected me. Naruto smiled at her because she was a few inches shorter than him. But they were mean to you. How are you going to save them? Why would you keep them? She yelled at him, Naruto. He gave her a sad smile. She had really lost faith in people. He would have to help her find it again. I did it because I cared about keeping my people safe. It was important to me to show them that they were wrong about me and that I loved the village. Hate makes things worse. People who hate each other get hated back. This makes people hate each other more. One side has to stop hating the other side for it to stop. He smiled as he showed Fu his way. Then peace can be reached through understanding, he said. Someone told Fu, stop hating the person who hurt you, and they'll see you for who you are in the end. She bit her lip as she thought about it. Could she tell when someone was hating people? Behind Naruto, he heard a short old woman with wrinkled eyes say, wise words for such a young man. That's a good philosophy you have there. The world would be a better place if more people thought like you, she said with a hint of sadness. Yes, but that's my dream come true. That was my sensei's dream, and I promised him and his first lost student that I would do it. I never break my promises, Ba-san, Naruto replied with a smile. Fu saw Naruto in a new way. He had saved her. She laughed and pulled her sleeve up to reveal a seal. She sent chakra into it to break it, and in a puff of smoke she held up a very large scroll that said, this is the Jackal contract. It cut me off a long time ago. She gave Naruto the scroll and said, I don't need it anymore, so I'm giving it to you to help your cause. Naruto looked at the scroll with wide eyes for a second. He had lost his toad contract when he died, but this could replace it. Plus, the animal path let him sign contracts with more than one animal. Ba-san, I can't. He began, but stopped when he saw that she wasn't there anymore. Where did she go? He asked Fu. Fu shook her head and said to Naruto, I don't know, I was looking at the scroll, but man, for an old bag of bones, she can move fast. Naruto put the scroll away on his shoulder and shook Fu's head. Naruto asked the girl with dark skin, so Fu, where are you going? She said with a sad face, I don't know. Taki sold me out, so I'm not there. She looked at Naruto and said, maybe I can go with you, Naruto. San. Naruto agreed. He could keep her safe from the Akatsuki this way. He went back inside, took Gado's head, and wrapped it in a scroll. As he and Fu left the castle, Naruto said, "Well, that's done." He then sent clones to find anything valuable to give to the people of the wave. Once Naruto and Fu the Nanabi Jinchuriki saw how broken down Gado's estate was, they went into the forests of Nami no Kuni. He looked at Fu and said, "Let's stop here for now. I have something I need to do." He then opened the big summoning scroll that the old lady gave him back at the tyrant's old house. Naruto's name was the fourth person to sign the scroll, which only had 3 names on it. When Naruto bit his thumb, he wrote his name in blood. He then pressed his bloody fingers under the name. In a normal contract, the name stays red, but his signature turns golden. While making the hand signs for the summoning jutsu, Naruto said, "Okay, let's try this." He then slammed his palm on the ground. In a big cloud of smoke, the boss of the Jackal contract showed up in front of them. He was big, but not as big as Gamabunta or the other 2 boss-level toads. There was smooth black fur down the boss Jackal's back and golden fur all over its body. It was about 3 stories tall. Who dares call up the Jackal boss Jakaru? The big summon, which looked like a dog, asked, then looked down at the 2 people in front of him. Naruto took a step toward the big summon and said, "I called you." The boss Jackal lowered its head so that it was now Nose 2. Nose with the blonde demon. The big dog looked like it was studying the blonde while Hiss's eyes went over her body. The summon boss told the blonde Juubi, "You smell like Biju and feel like one, but more natural, like you were one with nature. I see it now. Boy, you are the Juubi, aren't you?" Jakaru asked Naruto. Naruto agreed. Naruto smiled at the big animal and said, "Yes, my name is Naruto Namikaze, and I am the Naidem Juubi." He then extended his hand to the Jakaru. It moved one of its paws to use one of its big claws to shake Naruto's hand. When the demon lord nodded, the boss of the Jackal contract told him, "It is an honor to serve you, Juubi. Dono. You may call on our clan whenever you wish. The Jackal clan specializes in tracking and scavenging. We are also fluent in fire and earth jutsu but prefer to stay out of combat." Naruto told his boss, "Thank you, Jakaru-san. Please call me Naruto." The boss agreed. Since it wasn't her business, Fu just watched them talk. Jakaru said as he left in a cloud of smoke, "Very well, Naruto. Sama. If that's all, then I'll be on my way." "Okay, let's go back to the main village," Naruto told Fu as he put his hand on Fu's shoulder and disappeared. Fu didn't even notice the faint red glow of a single Sharingan that was hidden by the trees. The man said, he might be a problem, and then he disappeared into a swirl from his one eye. The home of Tazuma. Naruto and Fu showed up in front of the others. The oldest Kunoichi got up first and asked the blonde, "Naruto-san, how did it go?" Naruto smiled, took Gado's head out of its seal, and threw it on the table. The people who lived in the house gasped when they saw the man's scared face. This man had made many of their lives a living hell. He said, "He's dead," as tears came to his eyes as he saw the man he hated lying dead. He was happy as he hugged his daughter and yelled, "He's finally dead." Inari was shocked and looked at the head. A short time ago, he thought Gado was unbeatable, but now this was proof that the great Gado had finally been defeated. He looked up and saw Naruto talking to his team. He thought with a teary smile, "Heroes do exist." The Jonin with silver hair looked at Fu and asked, "So were there any problems?" Naruto surprised everyone by saying, "I ran into an Akatsuki member named Hidan. He was a pain to get rid of because he can't be killed." There were 2 things that shocked them. One was that Naruto said the Hidan could not be killed. Another thing was that Naruto fought Hidan and won. Sayuri asked her lover, "What do you mean that he can't be killed? How was it that someone could be killed?" He said with a sigh, "I mean that he is literally immortal." The 4 Kunoichis were shocked when they heard that someone had become immortal. The young man asked with wide eyes, "How did he become immortal?" Naruto scowled, "He gained it by joining the Jushinist cult. They perform human sacrifices to please their god who in turn grants them immortality. While the cult seems like a choice that anyone in the shinobi business should do, the trails for joining the cult bring the body to a point where it would fail or the mind would break from pain. Also, the blessing of Jashin fills your mind with dark thoughts which slowly break away at your sanity. Naruto explained with a scowl at the idea of the religious group. Fu asked the ex. Jinchuriki, how do you know so much about the cult Naruto? I've fought a member before. They are a pain in the ass to beat since the only way to do so would be cut of their limbs and restrain them, trap them so they can't move, completely obliterate the body, drain their chakra, which is hard to do since they rarely use ninjutsu or genjutsu, and lastly you can rip their souls out of their body. Naruto told the kunoichi, who nodded to show they knew. Kazumi looked at Fu and asked, so who are you and where do you fit into the story of how Naruto killed Gato? The girl with green hair smiled. Gato was going to sell me to the Akatsuki because I am the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi, Fu said with a frown as she thought about what almost happened. Naruto saved me and the other slaves, so I chose to go back to Konoha with him, the dark-skinned girl said with a smile as she thought of Rurouni. Kazumi said, that makes sense about why the Akatsuki were here, but it still doesn't explain how Gato got a Jinchuriki. They sold me to him so that they could get rid of me. The council back at Taki decided that I was too much of a risk, so one day I was attacked bound with chains and seals, then shipped off to Gato's. Fu shared her story of betrayal. There was a hug between them. The blonde said, I'm sorry for everything you had to go through. She looked like she was about to cry. Fu said with a big smile, it wasn't your fault. Those jerks in Taki are to blame. Naruto smiled at the other person. Zabuza was leaning against the wall on the other side of the room, which the blonde saw. Naruto smiled and walked over to him. Well, it looks like your information was right, he said. Naruto got a scroll out of his bag. Naruto gave the swordsman the scroll and said, as promised, this has the location where you and the Anbu will meet as well as the password that they will need to know in order to follow you. Root. Naruto yelled, and an Anbu popped up next to him in Shunshin. He took out another scroll and said, give this scroll to the Hokage. The Root Anbu smiled, nodded, and walked away to finish his mission. Wow, for a second I thought you were lying when you said you had Anbu at your command, Zabuza said with a smirk that his bandages over his mouth covered. Let's have a fight now. Only swords and taijutsu, no genjutsu, ninjutsu, or dojutsu, Zabuza said, emphasizing the word dojutsu, because he knew he had no chance of beating the blonde with his tengen. He smiled and said, I think that's a great idea. Let's go outside. He then led Zabuza outside. People who had heard about the challenge went to see the fight. As they took their stances, both fighters looked at the other. The blonde said, ready? And Zabuza asked. Zabuza told his apprentice, Haku, be the ref. The ice user took a step forward and nodded. She threw down her arms and said, fight. Right away, Zabuza charged straight at Naruto, but Naruto raised his sword to block the missing nin's forward strike. Naruto stopped fighting as he jumped back and ran at Zabuza in a zigzag pattern. He then hit Zabuza with a cut from the right, but Zabuza blocked it with his huge blade. Zabuza tried to fight back, but Naruto quickly disappeared out of Zabuza's sight. The Nuke Nin knew he was in danger because he had trained his battle instincts. The man without a brow turned just in time to block Naruto's next attack. When the two blades hit each other, sparks flew everywhere as they grinned at each other. You're good. Zabuza laughed, happy to have found someone who could fight him with a sword. As Naruto jumped back, Zabuza threw the big Zanbato at him. Naruto jumped over it and went after Zabuza. The former mist swordsman avoided Naruto's vertical slash and ran to his sword, which was stuck in a tree trunk. Naruto ran at Zabuza to try to stop him from getting his sword back, but Zabuza reached the handle and swung a wide attack, so Naruto had to duck. When Naruto saw an opening, he charged at the man without a brow and tried to skewer him. Naruto's blade only scratched Zabuza's lower chest because he was able to move. Even though it hurt, Zabuza took another swing at our blonde hero. The demon jumped on the flat side of the blade and then kicked Zabuza in the jaw quickly. The Mist Shinobi flew backwards, but he stopped himself by driving his blade into the ground. He rushed at the Nuke Nin to try to end the fight. Zabuza thought the same thing and charged at the blonde too. Just before they fought, Naruto disappeared. What? Wow, Zabuza thought in shock. Naruto stood with his back to Zabuza and said, behind you. When the lost Nin turned around, he was hit in the chest with a heavy kick that sent him flying back so hard it broke his neck. 2 threes crashed into Zabuza, ending his flight. The force of the crash almost knocked the threes over. Naruto walked up to Zabuza and put his sword to his throat. The only thing Naruto said was, "I win," with a neutral face. Now Zabuza saw it. He knew Naruto for what he really was, someone who had seen every horrible thing war could do and seen everyone he loved die. Naruto would do anything to keep the people he cares about from dying. He was a friend when he wasn't fighting, but a warrior when he was, and he would kill someone to get what he wanted. That person was someone he could trust. Zabuza said with a small laugh, "I have to say, your gaki is good. I give." Naruto smiled and took his sword off of Zabuza's neck. Nairo said, "That was a good fight." After a week. At the end of the bridge, Naruto, his team, Haku, and Fu were all standing. After Naruto killed Gato, Tazuna and his workers worked for a week to finish the bridge. Because Naruto gave the village money, the economy now did very well. For Haku, Zabuza had told him that he had to go and she had to go to Konoha with Naruto. Though she didn't want to leave him, he agreed after Zabuza told her that he loved her like a daughter and didn't want her to see Kiri's kind of war when she was so young. With the help of the Banbutsu Saza, Naruto made a new outfit for himself. Besides black pants and boots, he wore a black shirt with a white X on the chest. Besides this, he wore a white coat with 10 tails that split at the waist and reached his ankles. The collar was high and had 10 points. There was a picture of the Rinnegan with 9 tomo under it on the back. 9 Magatama beads in red are strung around his neck. Of course, he had to say that these clothes fit him better than the ones Kami had given him before. Naruto told Zabuza, "I got word yesterday that the Root Anbu have been called up and will be there when you get to Umi no Kuni." He said this with a small smile on his face because he knew he was helping to end the bloodline wars. The man without a brow said, "Thank you, Naruto. Sama. I hope to see you one day when I'm Mizukage." Zabuza laughed. Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, "Please don't call me Naruto. Sama." This made Zabuza laugh. Haku said with a sad smile, "I'll miss you, Zabuza. Sama." She knew she was leaving the man who raised her and saved her life in Mizu no Kuni. The man smiled as he saw his daughter figure blush from what he was saying. "HN. Just stay safe, Haku. Chan. And remember that if any boy in Konoha tries to touch you inappropriately without your permission, I give you the right to kill them." With her orange book open, Kazumi told her group, "Well, I think it's time to go." She then began to walk away. The other people in the group agreed and closed in on her. Naruto paused for a moment and gave Tazuna a Hiraishin kunai. "Gato tried to threaten your country, so don't be afraid to call me if someone does." That's what Naruto said before he left with his group. He heard a bird's cry and looked up to see a Konoha messenger hawk flying around him. The bird whistled at Naruto and flew down to him, leaving a scroll for him. He took it out and read the Hokage's message. It was a message telling him that the Chunin exams would happen in Konoha, just as he said they would. Naruto thought, "This time I'll make sure Orochimaru doesn't hit his mark." "Hi Konoha." Naruto and Kazumi gave the message to the Hokage after Naruto and his group got there. Haku and Fu were given temporary shelter in the village with the Namikaze family until further notice. Things really started to talk after Kazumi left. Hiruzen told Naruto to follow him through a fake wall on the side of the room and said, "Rokudame. Dono, the war council has gathered." Inside, there was a big round table with a map of the elemental nations and 6 chairs around it. 4 of the 6 chairs were already occupied. Shikaku Nara was one of the 4 people who were already there. The lead officer of Anbu came next. He wore a white cloak, black pants, arm guards, gloves, and black sandals. There were bandages on his right leg. He also had brown hair that was spiked and wore a mask that looked like a dog. It had pointer ears, detailed eyebrows, and 3 thick stripes, 2 on each side of his cheek and 1 on his forehead. Then came Danzo Shimura, and finally Jiraiya of the Sannin. Hiruzen said, "It looks like we're all here." Naruto looked around and saw that the group was made up of some of Konoha's most important officers, including the leader of Root Anbu, the current Hokage, the most powerful Sannin, the Hokage, and himself, the Rokudame Hokage. Very few people knew he was from another world besides those in the room. He asked the other 5 people in the room, "So how are we going to handle the invasion?" Seeing Naruto, Hiruzen turned to ask, "Rokudame. Dono, how was the invasion in your world before?" This was the Hokage's question. Naruto shut his eyes and thought about that day. The attack was completely unexpected. The village was not ready for the strike, which resulted in a large number of casualties. Orochimaru's plan was to let the Ichibe Jinchuriki rampage within the village while several three-head snakes are summoned away from the village. Wick broke through the walls of the village. In the Chunin exam stadium, Kabuto Yakushi place a genjutsu over the civilian while several Auto and Suna shinobi dresses like civilians attacked. Orochimaru would then attack the Sandaime while his elite guard create a barrio trapping the two inside. He would then use the Edo Tensei to revive the Shodem and Nidem to help him. Naruto explained the happenings on the day. He lost his Jiji. Shikaku thought to himself, I think I got an idea. He began to think of a way to stop the plan. I propose that we alert the Anbu about the invasion and the experienced Jonin. We will announce the plan to the Chunin and lower-ranking Jonin over headsets right before the invasion, since the biggest chance that a spy would be a Chunin or Genin. The Nara clan chief Danzo asked, what about the summons? I say that the remains of your route strike the groups in charge of the summons. Jiraiya. Sama should use his summons to guard the village gate and make sure that they don't get more ninja into the village. Namikaze. Sama will take care of the Jinchuriki, then go and assist the Sandaime in battle with Orochimaru. The Nara leader explained to the rest, who nodded in agreement. Hiruzen told the others who had left, very well, we'll go with your plan, Shikaku. This council meeting is over. We'll meet again after the second exam. This is the end of the meeting, Shikaku said. As Naruto walked through the village, he jumped from roof to roof. The Chunin exam started in 2 days, and his team was there. He heard yelling and turned around to see Kankuro picking on Konohamaru. Is this happening again? He thought this as he jumped off the roofs behind the Suna shinobi. In a low voice, Naruto told the cat. Man, you know that picking on the Hokage's grandson could cause trouble between our villages. As soon as the Suna ninja dropped the child, he turned pale. Tamari, on the other hand, turned red. He looks good. Wow, the blonde thought as a light blush spread across her cheeks. Naruto asked with a sweaty smile and a hint of killer intent that made a redhead watching from the trees blush with desire to kill. Good, now can you please tell me what this boy did that you, as a shinobi, would have to threaten him? I'm sorry, sir. It was a misunderstanding, Kankuro said, defending himself against the blonde who was laughing at the puppet user's response. With a happy smile, Naruto turned to Tamari and said, nice to meet you, beautiful. May I know your name? This made Temari's whole face turn red. She looked at the ground and said, Tamari. The girl in the tree gave the blonde Kunoichi, who had caught the blonde man's eye, a mean look. Ninjutsu said, nice to meet you, Tamari. Chan. He then kissed her right hand. He liked the desert Kunoichi in his world a lot, but he never had time to ask her to go on a date. What did Naruto say to the tree next to the road? You can come out, you know. Somewhere in the sand, a beautiful woman with red hair showed up in front of the 3 shinobi. The dark red hair on her back reached her mid back and split on the left, showing the kanji character for love on her forehead. A bang framed her left side. It looked like Gaara's back lined her eyes. Her emotionless emerald green eyes held a radiant beauty that was hidden by all the pain she had been through. The sleeves of her black full bodysuit were like those on a shirt, and the legs were a 3/4 of the way down. The neck was open. Over his right shoulder and the left side of her hips, she wore a pink cloth. Over his left shoulder and the right side of her hips, she wore a wide leather band system. She wore her gourd with sand in it around her neck with this leather band. She also put her black forehead guard on top of the band. But what really caught Naruto's attention were her big D cups. Shame on you, Jiraiya. Naruto believed. Kankuro, I thought I told you not to make a fuss, the female Gaara said, her voice tinged with poison and desire. It took another blast of Ki from the red-haired Jinchuriki to silence the puppet user when he tried to defend himself. She said in a dark voice, shut up or I'll kill you. She turned to Naruto with almost invisible pink on her cheeks and said, I'm sorry for my brother's stupid actions. It didn't bother Naruto, who smiled and said, it's okay. May I know your name? This made both Gaara and Tamari blush a little more. In a neutral voice that didn't show any emotion, she said, it's Gaia. With a smile, Naruto said, My name is Naruto Namikaze, and I'm the genin of Konoha and the leader of the Namikaze clan. The three sand shinobi in front of him were shocked. Naruto smiled to himself at how they reacted. At least they didn't think I was my father, Naruto thought with a sigh of relief. Gaia gave Namikaze-san a small bow and said, "Nice to meet you." She didn't like following rules when she didn't know them, but she knew that the blonde must have political power since he was the leader of the clan. When he heard this, Naruto shivered and said, "Please, Naruto is fine. Calling me that makes me feel old." He put his hand on his sword in a quiet way and asked Gaara, "Yo Gaara, are you there?" To connect with him in the afterlife. "What is it?" Naruto asked, making sure Gaia couldn't join the conversation because he didn't want someone new to find out his secret. Gaara asked the blonde, "Yes, my name is Naruto. What is it?" He could almost feel the smile on the old Hokage's face. "Dude, I finally found your match, and she's hot." Gaara's anger was coming out of the sword as Naruto replied with a smirk. Gaara rubbed the bridge of his nose back in heaven and said, "I thought I told you to never." "Never mind, you wouldn't listen anyway." As Gaara cut the line to avoid more trouble, he said, "Just take care of her." Gaia waved her brother and sister to follow her and said, "We're leaving now." He was cute, she thought to herself, but she wasn't sure what to say when the foreign word came to mind. She told her, "Please don't trust him. Everyone will. Remember that you can only trust your mother." Shukaku spoke to her in her mind as he tried to eat up as much of her sanity as he could through the girl's broken seal. He could feel the boy's strength and didn't want to let the blonde take it away from him. Gaia thought, "Yes, mother." She saw Biju laughing crazy in her mind as he tried to kill any hope she had of finding someone who could understand her. Shukaku said with a dark crackle, "Good, now get me some more blood. Mother wants it." Naruto smiled and called out to Gaia, "Hey, want to hang out for a bit tomorrow? I'd love to get to know someone from a different village. He'll do everything he can to help her so she doesn't go crazy like Gaara did all those years ago." Shukaku yelled, "Don't you child. He'll betray you just like that traitorous uncle did." He was trying desperately to get her to turn down the friend offer by reminding her of one of the worst times in her life. Gaia told the blonde, "No," and walked away. The blonde frowned at her answer. He knew he had to do something about Shukaku the dog because he was using her in a sneaky way. Naruto smiled again and said, "Okay then, see you at the Chunin exams." The person next to him looked back at him with the same question in their mind. He told me how he knew. After 2 days, Naruto and his group went into the academy building to get ready for the Chunin tests. Since Sayuri and Narumi were genin, Naruto couldn't tell them anything about the invasion. They stopped in front of a door. Sayuri growled, "What is this?" As she saw a trick over the door that showed the wrong number. "Drop the ill." Naruto cut her off and put his hand over her mouth. Naruto told her in a whisper, "Be quiet, Saw-chan. It was put there to get rid of the weak and stupid. Stop right there, you three. We've taken the tests more than 10 times and still failed. What makes you think that academy fresh genin like you can do it?" Asked one of the 2 people standing in front of the door. He let out a spike of ki to let them know who he was. Naruto asked as his Tengen flashed for a split second, "Are you saying that the Namikaze head, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and the last loyal Uchiha aren't really?" When both guards realized who they had hurt, they turned pale. A few genin were pushed out of the way as they ran away quickly. "I challenge you to a spar," yelled a boy with bowl-shaped hair and eyebrows that were too thick. He was wearing a green skin tight jumpsuit and green leg warmers. From behind him, both of his teammates looked bad. He said, "No," in a strong voice. Sayuri asked, "Who are you?" While making a nice guy pose, he said, "I'm Konoha's beautiful green wild beast, Rock Lee. Now I want you to spar, Sire-chan," he told the Uchiha as he pointed at him again. He said, "I said no," again in a firm voice. Sasuke had lost a lot in his world, which made him turn to the path of evil. When Rock Lee knew who he was talking to, he said, "Oh, you're Yondaime Sama." Naruto made a face fault and then glared at the genin in green. Naruto yelled at the boy, "I am not Minato Namikaze. I am Naruto Namikaze." The boy stepped back as a large amount of ki, to him, exploded from the blonde. Lee bowed and said, "I'm sorry, Naruto. Kun. He then said that he would run 200 laps around the village if he ever forgot Naruto's name again. As Naruto and his team walked into the exam room, he said, "Whatever." There were Chunin hopefuls in the room, and when they saw Naruto and his team, they decided to use their ki to try to scare them, which Naruto thought was stupid. One of the shinobi from I was yelled something that really annoyed Naruto, though. The shinobi yelled, "It's the Yondaime Hokage," which made the whole room go crazy with cheers. Is that really true? There are genin in the room who think I'm their father. This is it, Naruto thought as he let out some of his killer intent. The room went pale. Naruto clenched his teeth and said, "I am not Minato Namikaze." Naruto started to sweat when he saw how bad everyone else in the room was. "This is going to be easy," he said as he and his team, followed by Team 9, walked into the room. When Naruto's enemy team saw how powerful he was, they were shocked. Even though he was a genin himself, he was able to take out a room full of ninja, even if they were genin. He heard, "Naru. Kun." Behind him as Ino ran up and jumped into his arms. After the mission to Nami no Kuni, Naruto decided to make her one of his official girlfriends. Ino quickly took his lips back, which led to a quick kiss. From the door, Inuko's voice said, "He's not all yours, you know." She then led her team into the room. Shono and Hinata were behind her. You'd think Hinata would still be the shy but nice girl she was before, right? In this world, she was a much colder and more sure of herself Hyuga, just like most of her family. He saw that she broke down when she didn't have anyone to look up to as a role model. Hinata said to Narumi as she walked up to her, quite mutt. "Narumi-chan, would you like to come over to the Hyuga compound after this exam to have a little fun?" The heiress of the Hyuga family asked the blonde Namikaze. "Hinata-san, I already told you that I'm in a relationship already and I don't play for that team," Narumi called out. From the time they were in high school, the Hyuga heiress tried to get her to agree to go on dates with her, but she always said she was seeing someone else. The Hyuga turned on her Byakugan and gave Naruto a mean look. Before leaving, she said, "I will have her one day." Seeing how the Hinata was acting made Naruto sweat. The fact that she loved Narumi showed him that she still cared about the village and had a heart. "You guys should learn to be quiet, yo," said a genin from Konoha with silver hair that Naruto knew very well. Naruto hit him in the gut so hard that he couldn't finish his sentence. He growled at the snake and threw it at the man's teammates. "Shut up, snake." Everyone was shocked when they saw Naruto, but they didn't say anything because they were afraid of what would happen to them if they spoke out. He was going to be killed by Naruto, but that would have told Orochimaru about their plans. "Okay, stop fighting," yelled Ibiki Morino. A big man in a black trench coat and a forehead protector that looked like a bandana said, "Go." This is what the T&I expert said, "Any more fighting and you'll be disqualified." He turned to look at Ibiki and said, "Yes." As he walked to his seat, he was squished between Hinata, who was mad at him for taking the girl she wanted, and an Iwa shinobi, who was mad at him for being related to and looking like the Yondaime who had wiped out their forces years before. The first exam is a written exam. You have 1 hour to answer the 9 questions given to you and one more at the end. If you are caught cheating, you will lose 2 points of your total score the first time, 4 the second and 6 the last time, which will be an instant failure. If your score is less than 1 when the exam ended, then you and your teammates are disqualified. Ibiki clarified the test rules. A little different from when he took them, but still pretty much the same. Naruto was able to answer all of the questions quickly because he had so much experience in battle. He took a look around and chose to sleep. In the 10 minutes that were left, Ibiki told everyone that the last question would be given by our blonde demon hero. This woke him up. The scared special Jonin said, "This last question is different from the others. You can leave now and take the test again in 6 months if you want to." Inuko asked the proctor, "Why would we quit? We already took the other questions." It was Ibiki's turn to smirk, because if you get this question wrong, you will never be able to take another Chunin exam in any country or village again. All of the genin gasped at what he meant by this. Tamari said, "But that's not fair. There are people here who have taken the exams several times before and they never had to do this stupid question." "Well, your group got me as the proctor, so I make the rules. Now make your choice." And just like that, more than half of the teams quit, including one with a weak pinky banshee who was glaring at her for leaving. Because Sakura wasn't going to quit, Naruto didn't yell that it was BS like he did the last time. After most of the teams left, there were only about 23 teams left. Ibiki said with a smirk as he watched the shocked looks on the faces of the remaining genin. Well then. All of you who are left. You pass. As a shinobi, you have to make tough choices from time to time. In the field, bad information could bring your team to their death, he said as he took off his bandana to show everyone the burns and holes in his head. He put the bandana back on and was about to go on when something came in through the window and stopped him. What had just broken the window was now in front of the room with a big banner behind her. What it said on the banner was, "The sexy and single, second exam proctor Anko Mitarashi." The woman known as Anko had violet hair that was styled into a short, spiked, fan-style ponytail. Her eyes were light brown and had no pupils. She wore a tan overcoat with a purple seam that had a pocket on each side. It went with a tight mesh bodysuit that went from her neck to her thighs. A dark orange miniskirt, a forehead protector, a wristwatch, a small pendant that looks like a snake fang on a thick cord instead of a chain so it wouldn't come off easily in battle, and pale gray shin guards were all she wore. She also wore a dark blue belt around her waist that went with her skirt and had a sash that looked like an arm. Before she saw Naruto, she said, "Hey kids, I'm Anko Mitarashi, the second proctor. Let's go." She walked over to him with a smirk and wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. He heard her whisper, "Oh Naruto. Kun, you're in the exams?" It was weird how they were together. For some reason, she would try to get him to do the same, even though they weren't dating yet. No matter how bad or good his day was, Naruto always looked forward to spending time with Anko because of her personality. "Yes, my name is Anko. Chan. Is it possible for me to take you to dinner after this?" Naruto asked with a cute smile. "Oh, you want to take me to dinner, huh? Let's see," she said as she walked back to the front of the room. Ibiki pushed his way through the banner and said, "Anko, you're early again." Anko looked very embarrassed. She looked at the big group and said, "Who cares? Meet me in the forest of death in 10 minutes, you're out," she said as she jumped out of another window, making Ibiki sigh again. Naruto and his group were at one of the gates to the dangerous track. Everyone who passed the first test was sent after Anko on a wild goose chase until they reached the forest of death. When they got there, Anko told them how the second test would work. Someone who passed the first test would get an Earth Scroll and someone who passed would get a Heaven Scroll. The teams were then sent into the Forest of Death, which had beasts and plants that were very dangerous and could kill a Chunin if they weren't careful. His group had an Earth Scroll and was almost ready to go into the forest. The blonde Juubi told his friends, "Be careful out there." As he gave each of them a Hiraishin Kanai, he said, "Don't be afraid to call me if you two get into any trouble," Naruto said before the doors opened. He couldn't tell them about Orochimaru because it would hurt the plan to stop the invasion, and he didn't want Orochimaru to find out about the plan. "It'll be alright Naru. Kun, both me and Sayuri Chan are at least high Chunin level." Orochimaru was too strong for a Chunin, but Naruto knew that Orochimaru was stronger than them. "Yeah Naru. Kun, everyone knows we are the best genin team in the village," Sayuri said with a lot of pride in her voice as the doors opened. The group ran through the forest and climbed trees to speed up. Naruto told him, "Don't be too sure of yourself." They were traveling for a few hours when they came across a group of rain ninja. They quickly got rid of them. They didn't have the right scroll, so they had to keep looking for another team. They were about a third of the way to the tower by the end of the first day, but they still didn't have the scroll. If they didn't need to get the scroll, they would have reached the tower already. So far today, all three teams they've played had Earth Scrolls. Now that it was more likely that they would meet Orochimaru in the forest, Naruto cursed his good luck. Skip time, morning. Naruto woke up early because someone screamed. What the heck? Naruto thought as he looked for where the scream was coming from. He found a girl with red hair and glasses who was about to be mauled by a huge bear. "Aren't you Karen from Sasuke Tomi's group?" Before he did anything, Naruto asked himself. He jumped in front of the bear and held out his hand. The bear was blasted back, and he yelled, "Shinra Tensai." He looked at the girl with red hair who was struggling to put on her glasses. She could see Naruto and his chakra better after putting it on. She liked how warm it was but also wild, like a lion. She turned pink just touching the chakra. If the blood on the bear's claws and teeth told him anything, it was that her teammates had been killed by it. "Are you okay?" he asked as he got down on one knee next to her. Karen slowly nodded as she tried not to blush. She said, "Why?" "Yes," but then she tripped and fell on Naruto. When she felt his muscles under his shirt, her blush got 100 times brighter. She said in a soft voice, "I sprained my ankle." Naruto saw that this Karen was very different from the Karen in his world. So far, Orochimaru hadn't changed her. "I'll make sure you get to the tower safe." He said this as he called up 3 clones of a horse. Sized jackal. The Biju with the blonde hair put the red head on the dog. He gave her a scroll and said, "When you get to the tower, give this to them. This scroll puts you under the protection of my clan." He said that. She told him, "Thank you," as the jackal and its clones began to move away. He said, "Shadow Clone Jutsu," as he made several copies and sent them into the forest. Naruto made a sudden motion for his team to stop. Under them were a group of Iwa shinobi. Naruto smiled and said, "Watch," then he was gone in a blur. Below them, on the ground there was talk on the Iwa team. "We should go after the Namikaze group," the boss said. He and the rest of his team were dressed like Iwa shinobi. But Onoki Sama said that we were not to target Minato Namake's family for revenge. One of the other two said with some fear in his voice because he had felt Naruto's KI in the first test and didn't want to feel it again. "Get rid of that old man. The rest of Iwa hasn't forgiven that jerk Namikaze, but he has. He wasn't someone who lost a family member to the jerk during the war." The last one said it in a mean way. "Yes, we'll be heroes in the village if we kill them. We might even get jobs on the council or someone younger could take the place of that fossil," the leader said with a cocky grin as he thought about what would happen if they killed the Namikazes. The other two now had the same smirk on their faces. Such unhealthy ambition. Someone spoke from behind them. He was leaning against a tree when they turned around. "Hey, look who's here. When you die, we'll be famed." As he charged at the blonde who smiled, the leader said. He said with a dark grin, "Know your place, mortal." Naruto said, "Jinten." Missile punch, and then threw a fast punch at the leader in the chest. The punch was so strong that it tore through his clothes and crushed the Iwa shinobi's ribs. The shinobi was thrown back by the force and didn't stop until he hit a big tree that was almost knocked over by the force. "Enough with this, Kaden." "Demon lanterns," Naruto said in a whisper. Several fireballs appeared in the air and changed shape into the heads of demons. It was then the demon heads shot forward. Everything the heads touched caught fire because of the jutsu. A number of trees fell over as the fire burned them down. Narumi and Sayuri watched in awe from the trees. They could make out the Iwa team's screams of pain in the forest. "Do you think he would teach me that jutsu?" Sayuri was the first to ask after the short show. What did Sayuri ask her best friend? When her friend asked, "I don't think so," it jolted Narumi out of her shock. That power must be at least A level. She answered the question her harem sister asked. The Namikaze's answer made Sayuri pout. "Don't be that way, Chan said. "When I think you're ready, I'll teach it to you." He spoke from behind her. Sayuri hugged him and said, "Thank you," over and over. Naruto was about to say something when he felt someone he knew. Amaterasu. Naruto yelled and threw a wave of black fire at a tree. Before the black flames could reach the shinobi, a shadow jumped away from the tree. "Fufufu, it looks like one of the little genin has a pretty strong attack," a voice that wasn't there said. "I didn't know there was another Mangekyo Sharingan user alive." "Well, it looks like you have quite a bit of bite, Naruto." "Kun," Naruto said as he flared his ki. The creepy chucking stopped. Naruto had to hold back his urge to yell at Orochimaru to come out and face him. Even though Orochimaru was a crazy psychopath, he was still thought to be brilliant. If he called Orochimaru out by name, the snake Sanin would know something was wrong. "Come on out," she yelled as she drew her katana. As a grass ninja came out from the side of a tree, the creepy laugh came back. "You seem confident," it was said by Orochimaru in a fake female voice. They both fell to their knees when he flared his own ki. It was clear to both girls that Orochimaru was going to kill them. They knew this wasn't going to happen if they didn't fight him. Orochimaru was really shocked to see Naruto not only ignoring his ki but also sending out even more of his own, which scared even the snake Sannin. Naruto hit him in the face several times before he could finish. It seems you're a cut above the rest. He thought to himself, fast. As he flew back, but he flipped over in the air and hurt himself on a tree branch. Orochimaru's killer intent became less strong when Naruto stopped him, letting Sayuri and Narumi stand up. He looked at his two lovers and said, Naru. Chan and Saw. Chan, you two need to run. I'll keep him busy, Naruto said as he broke the first seal. He was now at 4 tails of power, which was almost enough to kill Orochimaru in his world. Naruto changed into a different form after staying in his human form. From his tailbone, he now had 4 white tails sticking out. His whiskers got darker and longer, and his canines got longer and sharper. The look in his eyes changed into those of a Tengen as he glared at the Saken. To kill Orochimaru, Naruto said, time to die. Then he shot at him. The girls were both shocked by the change, but they knew that fighting him would only get in the way, so they listened to him. The snake summoner laughed and said to the blonde, so a little genin thinks he can take me on by himself. The blonde glared back at him. Even though Orochimaru seemed sure of himself, the amount of power coming off of Naruto made him feel a little uneasy. You're a genin too, right? Naruto said with a smirk, so you can't be that strong. As Naruto tried to punch Orochimaru in the face, the snake Sannin dove out of the way and kicked Naruto in the face. Naruto corrected himself as he charged back at the person who called the snake. The snake user let out a dozen snakes and aimed them at Naruto. To his surprise, Naruto disappeared and reappeared next to Orochimaru, where he hit him in the side of the face again. Jinten. Meteor strong leg. Yelled out as he did a Jinten version of Leaf Hurricane by Rock Lee. Naruto's foot looked like it was on fire, of youth, before it hit Orochimaru in the face because the attack came so quickly. The snake camel flew through a few trees before coming to a stop. Orochimaru didn't want to be beaten by a kid, so he opened his mouth and let a fully healed version of himself come out, as if he were molting his damage. The mask was off, and Orochimaru stood in front of him in his real form. It seems that you are not to be underestimated, but it's too late now, Senei Tajashu. Many hidden shadow snake hands. A bunch of big snakes came out of Orochimaru's arm and hit Naruto. Naruto used Shinra Tensei to send out a powerful pulse that turned the snakes into a bloody mess of snake parts. Naruto put out his right hand, and it mechanically changed into a complicated metal weapon that looked like a cannon but had more than one barrel. Die, Naruto said coldly as he fired a lot of chakra bullets at the snake Sannin, who turned into a mud clone instead. Several trees weren't as lucky, though, as they now had hundreds of holes in them. Naruto felt someone behind him right away. Another robotic arm came out from his left shoulder and tore through his clothes. It caught Orochimaru's sword before it could cut him in half. When the blonde demon's other arm bent backwards 160 degrees and opened up like that, it let out wires that wrapped around Orochimaru. The snake Sannin was able to avoid the wires, but Naruto had to take his sword without him. Damn it, Futon. Great breakthrough. As the Sannin let out a big, strong gust of wind that hit the Juubi, he said. He moved out of the way with Jinten, then charged up a Rasengan and ran at Orochimaru. Along with Naruto, the snake Sannin ran at him with the Kusanagi pointed forward to stab him. A split second before they fought, Naruto was nowhere to be found. It hurt a lot in Orochimaru's back when Naruto pushed his evil Rasengan into his spine. He made a new version of himself because he didn't want to be hurt from the spinal damage. Naruto growled at the Sannin who had already been killed but was still alive. That's all. Do not mess around anymore. He yelled as he made 2 shadow copies. It was like the other 2 Narutos, but this one was blue. White and had 4 long, curved blades. He held out his hand high and the S. Rank just U shot up into the air. Futon. Rasen Shuriken. Naruto said before he threw the strong attack. Naruto threw the attack at Orochimaru even though he tried to avoid it. When it hit Orochimaru, the Rasen Shuriken blew him up a long way before it grew bigger. It was almost as big as the forest when the Jutsu's form grew. The white sphere in the sky scared and amazed everyone in the village. During the attack, Orochimaru could feel every tiny blade of wind cutting through his muscle cells and chakra network. Snake Sennin's body fell from the sky and landed in front of Naruto without any ceremony after the attack was over. To Orochimaru, Naruto said, "This is the end." He then drew a kunai. Orochimaru laughed weakly and said, "You fool, all I was doing was distracting you." "What?" Naruto yelled out in shock. Orochimaru gave a weak smirk as he quickly began to break down. "The clones you were fighting were called blood clones. A very close copy of the original that has the same amount of chakra and strength. By now, both of your little girlfriends have my curse marks on them." He laughed out loud before dying completely. As Naruto her eye shined to where Sayuri was, he didn't even think about it. The woman Uchiha was in a lot of pain and holding the side of her neck when Naruto showed up next to her. He yelled, "Shit!" as he ran toward the girl. "Heavenly sealing," is what Naruto said as he put his hand on her curse seal. When you took it off, you saw that there was now a ring around it with 10 triangles pointing outward. Sayuri looked at the Naruto when she opened her eyes. She thought his picture was fuzzy, but she was sure it was him. She said, "Naru-kun, Narumi-chan is fighting that monster," before she passed out. Naruto made a shadow copy of the kunai he had given Narumi before they went into the Forest of Death and her eye shined it. Naruto showed up a few meters away from Narumi, who was on her knees with Orochimaru about to cut her in half. Naruto thought, "No," as he pushed Narumi out of the way and charged forward. Narumi looked at Naruto from above. "You okay, Naru-chan?" Naruto went up to her. Narumi looked at him with wide eyes. She was shaking a little. "Na. Naru. Kun?" She spoke slowly. He asked, "Yeah? You arm?" When she saw that her lover had lost one arm, she yelled. Naruto looked at the spot where his arm used to be, then back at Narumi and said, "Narumi, don't worry about it. It's just a scratch." Naruto said in a calm voice. "Only a scratch? It's gone." She screamed at her male counterpart, who smiled back at her without changing a bit. "It'll be fine, Naru-chan," he said to his lover as he put her down against the tree they were sitting on. He slowly lost his smile as he turned to Orochimaru and said, "Naru-chan, please close your eyes for me. I don't want you to see the form I'm about to fill out." That's what Naruto said very seriously. But Narumi tried to speak, but Naruto cut her off as he grew closer. A huge amount of power was beginning to leak out, which scared her. "Hi Naru-chan. If you could please close your eyes and keep them closed for 10 seconds. Wait until that time is up to open them." That, Naruto said as steam rose from his body. As Narumi closed her eyes, she could see how serious the situation was. He saw that his lover's eyes were shut, so he let out his power. 1. Another 2 tails grew out of Naruto's tailbone, giving him a total of 8. As quickly as it started, his skin turned a pure white color, and his hair went from dark brown at the roots to pitch black. Orochimaru tried to take a step back, but the demon's power made him freeze in place. The sun went from being light blue to blood red, and the sky turned black as night. Every living thing, animal or human, in the elemental nations. It felt like an angry god had just woken up and was punishing the poor fool who had made it mad. This was true for both civilians and ninjas, from genin to Kage. 2. Naruto's change went even further when a pulse of power tore apart his shirt and coat, revealing his upper body. From the top of his head, 2 white horns began to grow out of his black, spiked hair. On his back, a 10-spined flower grew out, 5 on top and 5 on the bottom. There was a picture of the Rinnegan over 9 tomo arranged in 3 rows of 3. In an instant, Naruto disappeared and reappeared in front of Orochimaru, slamming him through several trees. He had seen Orochimaru start to back away from his demon. 4. When Naruto saw Orochimaru lying on the ground, he picked him up by the head and threw him against a big rock. Before the snake Sannin could hit the rock, though, he spat out a body that was fully healed. 5. But Naruto was able to keep up with the traitor's movements with his dujutsu as Orochimaru began to sink into the ground. Devil pointed one finger at the snake's hiding place and made a small black sphere out of pure chakra. 6. Naruto flicked his hand back and fired an attack at the Sannin at unbelievably high speeds. The Sannin tried to get out of the way, but the small ball followed him around until it hit the ground above him. 7. Before the attack hit him, Orochimaru shot out of the ground and ran for the trees. After going out of sight, Naruto reappeared just 1 meter in front of the snake summoner, his arm stretched out so that the palm of his right hand was inches away from the snake's face. 8. Negative and positive energy quickly joined together to make a dark purple orb that was swirling and murky. Too quickly, the ball flew across Orochimaru's face and into his palm. He only had time to open his eyes wider. 9. It was like the orb pushed Orochimaru backwards through everything in its way until he was about 100 meters away from where he started. 10. When the purple sphere finally went off, it destroyed Orochimaru's whole body and everything within 30 meters, leaving a huge hole in the middle. She opened her eyes after 10 counts. In those 10 seconds, she felt so much that she closed her eyes. It was the wave of power that had hit all the elemental nations, and it scared her. It felt like complete and utter power was going through her whole body. The power itself is like a big puzzle. It was wild and focused at the same time. It was evil and dark, but it also felt like a warm hug from a friend or family member. As she raised her eyes, her lover stood in front of her. Even though Naruto was back to normal, he still didn't have an arm. "I'm sorry it took so long, Naru-chan. But I finally got rid of that annoying snake, the demon, who was now blonde again," said with a smile. So he's dead? The blonde girl asked the Juubi, who gave her a dirty look. "He is dead, but I don't know for how long. I feel like I just tricked him, and he'll be back," Naruto told his girlfriend. However, Naruto knew that the snake Sannin would be back by the end of the Chunin exam, just like how Kabuto had brought him back to life during the war using Anko's curse mark. The snake could always come back as long as someone had Orochimaru's curse mark. Narumi widened her eyes and said, "Sayuri-chan. We need to help her." The blonde yelled as she sped off to find her best friend. Naruto sighed and took his arm in front of him before following her until they were in the same clearing where the sound team had attacked him, Sasuke, and Sakura in his world. They got there just in time to see Sayuri hurt Zaku's arms. When Naruto saw the black marks on Sayuri's skin that looked like flames, they got bigger. "Not possible. The curse mark was sealed with one of my seals, so how did it work?" Naruto was scared as he thought about it until it hit him. He arrived too late. The tainted chakra had already entered Sayuri's body, where it could use the Uchiha's chakra to break the seal. "Fuck it. If I see that snake again, I promise to take his soul and give it to the Shinigami right away." He thought this as he grabbed Sayuri from behind. Naruto forced his chakra into Sayuri's body to remove the dark chakra from the seal. "Stop, Sa-chan. It's over," he said. The kunoichi with black hair relaxed into his arm and passed out. Sayuri was given by Naruto to Narumi, who then brought her back to him under a tree. "What happened to my clone?" As he looked around at the hurt teams 10 and 9, Naruto asked. "Our idiot of a teammate thought you were trying to kidnap her and attacked," she said with a sigh. "Why did she have to be with the village's busiest genin? He tried to fight your clone and got beat up badly, but he did land a blow before passing out and popping it." Naruto let out a sigh and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "This is such a pain in the ass." He said it to himself, but everyone could hear him. What the hell went wrong? Even though I knew what would happen, Sayuri still got the mark of the curse and I lost my arm. I could grow it back now, but Narumi would just ask more questions. I guess I'll have to leave it alone for now and grow it back when Narumi and Jiraiya go train. Naruto gave it some thought before speaking to the sound crew. "Look now, we will be leaving now." Dosu as he put the scroll on the ground, but Naruto wouldn't let him. The blonde rushed in and used his one arm to pierce the sound shinobi through the chest. Naruto used his dujutsu to set the other shinobi on fire as he looked at Zaku. The last person on the sound team stared in shock as she saw her coworkers die right in front of her. She looked at him and said, "And then there was one." As Naruto walked slowly over to the kunoichi, he said in a low, threatening voice. Kin got down on her knees and begged, "Please don't kill me." There was a blonde demon right in front of her, and she begged him. "I never intended to be a part of that snake jerk's scheme in the first place. He killed my family and everyone in my village before taking me to his hiding places to join his army." She gavelled to the blonde, who looked at her with a thoughtful face. She was telling the truth, so Naruto made his choice. "Very well, You can come with us as long as you agree to be questioned and tell us everything you know about the snake. As Naruto talked about the betraying snake, he said in a cold voice. Yes. Get me out of that village. I'll tell you everything I know. Kin yelled at Naruto. He smiled lightly, picked her up in a bridal style, and carried her next to Sayuri. Naruto told them to rest for now as he went up against Team 10 and Rock Lee. Is she alright? Naruto asked as he walked up to Ino. She didn't seem to be awake and was obviously very tired from using her family's jutsu so much. Yes, she was in charge of that sound Kunoichi's body when her teammates tried to kill her, even though she was killing one of their own. Shikamaru said with hate in his voice, disgusting, as he looked at the sound team members who were still alive besides Kin. Here, this will help her. Naruto said as he pulled a herb out of his pocket. This herb speeds up cell reproduction and helps fix any and all internal injuries. He said this while getting down on one knee next to his blonde girlfriend. Ino-chan, Naruto said, you'll be okay. He then put a glowing green hand on her forehead to calm her down. The blonde took her hand off his shoulder and kissed her on the front of the head. Come on, I'll take all of you to the tower. He said this as he gathered all of his allies around him. Sayuri was carried by Narumi, and Ino was carried by Shikamaru. Team 9 was the only one who didn't join in. We still don't have our scroll. It was said by Neji as he and Tenten left with Rock Lee. But Naruto didn't care about Neji's attitude. He was focused on getting his team and Team 10 to the tower. One of his clones had gotten there a little early and helped him get a Hiraishin kunai. Hiraishin. Naruto muttered, and in an instant, 7 people were at the tower. Each team opened a scroll and threw it forward so that it crossed over the other teams. The senseis of both teams showed up in front of them in 2 plumes of smoke. Kazumi. Nichan, what are you doing here? When Narumi asked, her teacher looked at her and then at Sayuri. What happened? Asked the woman with silver hair. She inquired. Orochimaru attacked us in the forest. Even though I beat him, he was able to cut off my arm because he left his curse seal on Saw-chan. Naruto said as he moved his stub around. Are the 2 of you okay? Kazumi asked with wide eyes. The blonde smiled back at her and asked. The elder Kunoichi looked confused when she saw Naruto smile. The look on his face made her blush. She would be lying if she said she wasn't feeling something for the blonde, but after everything she had been through, she couldn't let a crush take her attention away. Naruto was calm as he took Sayuri from Narumi's arms and walked away. It's just a scratch. Go eat something and get some sleep, he said to his lover. I'm going to go seal this curse mark off again. He said this to the Uchiha as he led him into a private room he had asked the Hokage for. As the blonde put Sire on the comfortable sized bed and made a few hand signals, Naruto said, Kishin Fujin. He then put down his own version of the Shiki Fujin, which didn't need a sacrifice but was much weaker. Over the 3 tomo that were on her neck, a dark red glow appeared around the curse seal. In its place, there was a picture of his Shiki Fuin with a 10-pointed star. That should stop it completely this time. Right now it's my strongest Fuinjutsu, Naruto told himself as he slouched down in a chair nearby. It was really hard on his body to do 8 tails and then use the Kishin Fujin. Naruto calmed down before going to sleep. The day of the preliminary work. There had been a lot of change since Naruto and his friends got to the tower in the middle of the Forest of Death. He got together with Hiruzen and Danzo to talk about what happened in the forest. They were not happy that the snake had put his mark on Sayuri and that letting it go would make a living copy of Orochimaru appear. Having crazy pedophiles who hated them running around was the last thing they needed. They didn't like that Naruto lost an arm either, but they understood that he did it to save Narumi. They thought Naruto was telling the truth when he said he could grow it back in a few months. He could have done it there, so there was no need to ask him anything else. Narumi was already questioning him about the power spikes and tails. They heard Naruto say that he would ask the Shinigami to find a way to get the soul out of the seal so that he could take it out and destroy the seal. He would have tried to absorb the seal, but the thought of the snake Sannin trying to take over his mind like Kurama did all those years ago wasn't the most important thing to him. Kin and Karen's leaders had also talked about what they were going to do about them. They finally chose that Karen would be given refuge in the Namikaze clan compound and Kin would be questioned about any information she had about Orochimaru without being hurt. She didn't have much, though, because she was a genin. There they were in the main room of the tower, where all the fights would happen. This time, more people had died than in his world. This time, Kabuto's team didn't get there on time and was kicked out of the test. The teams that passed were Konoha's teams 7, 8, 9, and 10, Gaia's team, and 2 teams from the cloud. Killer Bee's genin team, made up of Samui, Karui, and Omoi, was a surprise. The next group was made up of someone he recognized as C, a skilled medic from Kumo, Yugito, a Jinchuriki from Nibi, and a generic genin he had never met before. What surprised Naruto was that Yugito was younger in this world than in his, while everyone else was older. It also surprised him that she looked about 20 and was still a genin. As everyone stood next to the Hokage and smoked his pipe, the teams lined up next to each other and looked up at the group of Jonin-sensei and a few others. Congratulations all of you, you have all earned the right to stand here today by proving that you could best Konoha's own forest of ever. Do any of you know why we have the Chunin exams in different villages than your home one? It was an old man who asked. To test our strength against the shinobi and kunoichi of other villages so that we can attract more attention to our home so that we gain more power and jobs. The third person on Yugito's team. That is a very important part of the Chunin exam, but it's not the main reason for them, Hiruzen agreed. Sending their shinobi to take part in them is really a way to show trust and help keep the peace in the villages. He said this as he closed his tired eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he began, however. Because so many genin passed, we will have to have a preliminary round. Every match will be 2-on-2 except for one, which will be 3-on-3. Everyone leave the floor except Inuko Inuzuka and Yugito Ni and go up to the balcony, Hayate Gecko said as he started the first fight. Everyone upstairs left except for 2 girls who were about to fight. This is not good. Yugito is older and has more life experience than Inuko. Chan. Along with that, Yugito has the Nibi in her, which gives her a huge boost in chakra and stamina in battle. Naruto thought to himself as he watched the 2 girls stare off into space. Naruto had a sad thought. I hope you don't get to hurt Inuko. Chan. But he didn't want her to win because Yugito was a pain to fight because she had long nails and fire jutsu. Yugito took a deep breath and pinched her opponent on the nose. You smell awful, just like a dog, she teased. Her opponent growled back, showing a wilder side of herself. Inuko replied, and you smell like old tuna, cat. She and Akamaru were getting ready to fight the Nibi Jinchuriki. Ready? Hayate asked the 2, and they both nodded. He jumped out of the way and said, fight. Yugito moved quickly and charged at Inuko with her nails wide open. As he tried to cut Inuko, she said, take this. But the Inuzuka heiress was quick enough to avoid the blow. With a smirk, Inuko asked, is that all you have? Let's go, Akamaru and Gatsuga. She yelled as she and Akamaru spun around quickly and charged at Yugito, who did a backflip to avoid getting hit. Before they could hit the floor, both Inuko and Akamaru stopped their attacks. Yugito yelled, you're moving too slowly. Kaden. Hineka. As she let out a big cloud of ash that looked like 10 little cats with bright red eyes. The 10 ash cats ran toward Inuko, who was still smiling and sure of herself. Is that all, Suga? Inuko yelled as she quickly dug a tunnel to get to the cats. Naruto yelled at his girlfriend, no Inuko. Chan. Turn away. She didn't hear him in time and ran into some ash cats. All of the cats blew up in ash and were pulled into the Suga. Before Inuko crashed into the ground and screamed in pain, her attack went crazy. The hot ash burned her skin when it hit her because she had spun, and it covered her whole body. From inside the ash cloud, you could hear Inuko's screams. Naruto quickly moved, jumped into the cloud, and used the Preta path to quickly absorb the ash. The good news is that Yugito was a Jinchuriki, so he could easily take in the jutsu. When the cloud went all the way into Naruto's body, everyone's eyes went wide. He can take in jutsu? Both Killer Bee and Darui were shocked that someone had such a skill. They knew they had to quickly tell it about this. With that much power, you couldn't just let someone go without telling them. Naruto said in a serious tone, the match is over, as he looked down at Inuko's unconscious body. She was almost naked because her clothes were on fire, and the ash had burned her skin bright pink. He was glad Yugito was a Jinchuriki because it meant his chakra had Biju chakra in it, which he could take in. If not for that, he would have had a lot more trouble because he wasn't used to draining chakra that wasn't Biju. Hiruzen nodded and waved his hand for Hayate to end the fight. The unique Jonin also nodded. Winner, Yugito Ni of Kumo. Medics. The Konoha native called out, and 2 men dressed as doctors came out carrying a stretcher. He made a shadow copy that didn't have a seal and sent it with the medics to keep an eye on Inuko. He walked back up to the upper floor, but stopped for a moment as he went by the Kumo teams. Naruto said to Killer Bee, who had wide eyes hidden behind his goggles, "The little cat did well, but she is clearly above Genin level. I mean, at her age and with the Nibi, she should be at least a Jonin. Wouldn't you agree, Hachi? Chan?" Killer Bee did. The blonde asked Bee, "Which one?" That's all Naruto said as he walked away, none. He still wanted to hide the fact that he was a Juubi, but sometimes it was fun to scare people. He must have picked up that trait from the Bijus during the war. Naruto asked with narrowed eyes, but that has nothing to do with my question. I repeat, why is a Jonin level kunoichi on an exam made for Genin? It was an order from the Sandame Raikage before he died, Darui told the blonde. The blonde nodded and then left to go back to his team. The Raikage is right. Handman, Darui, asked B, did the Hachibi say anything about him? Every Kumo ninja around Killer Bee broke out in cold sweat as he rapped, only that he was very powerful, we should be careful. Do you hear that? Omoi asked his teammates excitedly. What if he's really a huge monster made up of all 9 Bijus fused together? The blonde Kumo shinobi asked himself as he thought about the worst thing that could happen, which turned out to be true. While her teammate was rubbing the bump on his head, Karui got a tick mark and hit her over the head. Stupid, how could that be possible? Yugito. Nei has the Nibi and B. Sensei had the Hachibi. She yelled. Samui looked at Naruto with a little blush on her face. He's cool, she told herself as she looked up at the computer screen again to see who would fight next. 10-10 versus Tenmari. The 2 girls went to the lower floor and got ready to fight. Tenten, on the other hand, had the worst opponent possible because all of her weapons that she threw at Temari were blown away by her attacks. She tried many tricks but none of them worked against the Suna Kunoichi. Tenten's back would have been badly hurt at the end of the battle if Guy hadn't stepped in. As Naruto frowned as he watched the battle that had happened in his home dimension all those years ago, he said, well, that was less than entertaining. He was glad that Guy was able to stop the fight this time. She still didn't know what to think of Naruto because he had easily shown that he was above Jonin level on the Genin test in the Wave mission. Kazumi slowly nodded. She wasn't sure if she should be wary of him or admire the blonde, but when he looked at her in the eyes, she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. It seemed like he knew how much pain she was in. In spite of her pain at losing so many close friends and family, he was able to show the world his face. She had kept it hidden since her father killed himself. Everyone there was surprised when Hayate said, by order of the Hokage, the next battle, cough, will be between Naruto Namikaze of Konoha and C of Kumo as well as Akihiko of Kumo in a 2-on-1 battle. No one was surprised except Naruto, who was excited to be able to fight. He laughed at this. Of course the old man would make him fight 2 genin, but he was the goddamn Juubi and he was not going to lose to 2 genin. Naruto said, good, as he jumped over the rail and landed on the lower level. Which do you think will win? Yugito asked her fellow Kumo shinobi as they watched her 2 teammates walk down to the battle floor. Karui looked at her friend and asked, is that a rhetorical question? She then went on, of course C and Akihiko are going to win the battle. For one thing, think of it as 2-on-1 and 2. We're Kumo shinobi, and based on what we saw in your battle, they aren't that strong. Every Konoha ninja looked down their noses at her for being rude. Killer Bee rapped to his students, the Konoha kid will win, you can see it in his grin. As Samui looked down at the lower floor where all 3 fighters were getting ready to fight, she said, I agree with B. Sensei. I think he will win this battle. Karui yelled at the busty Kunoichi who looked at her out of the corner of her eye, what? How can you say that, Samui? Where is your pride? As the proctor stepped forward, Samui said, I'm just telling you what I think will happen. Your reaction was so not cool. Naruto versus C and Akihiko. All 3 of them said, ready? And nodded. As he jumped back, he said, fight. As the two sides looked at each other for a while, no one moved at all. Naruto broke the silence with a smirk and a slam on the ground, sending a huge cloud of smoke flying into the air. Jakaru Hanto! Naruto yelled from inside the cloud, and 4 black and gold blurs shot out of it. 2 went after each Kumo shinobi. They tensed up and waved their hands to try to avoid being hit, but they couldn't do it in time and were bit on the shoulders by both jackals. Both of them screamed in pain as the sharp canines dug deep into their skin. Naruto gave a small smirk and disappeared in a flash of speed. With each second that went by, new cuts appeared on either C or Akihiko before Naruto reappeared in front of them. The 4 jackals disappeared in clouds of smoke as Naruto turned back to the 2 genin. "Do you have anything else? What do you want?" Naruto asked in a harsh voice, which made Akihiko angry and C tense. Both of their bodies were losing blood quickly, and their cuts and teeth wounds were burning like crazy. "Die, scum of Konoha!" Akihiko screamed out in outrage as he preformed hand signs at a speed which the other Konoha genin except Naruto and his team could keep track of. Raiden. False darkness. He yelled out his jutsu and then shot Naruto a spear of lightning. Naruto disappeared and then came back behind him with his hand on Akihiko's head. Naruto could feel all the bad things the genin had done since the start of his career. He could understand killing to protect your village, but this boy had killed people because they wouldn't serve him a free meal, raped young girls all over Kaminari no Kuni and a few other countries while on missions, and stolen from people who hadn't done anything wrong. He was completely disgusting. "I believe it is you who shall die," Naruto said in a dark voice. He normally would have absorbed the soul and learned everything the boy had learned over the years, but he didn't want to remember all the bad things the Kumo ninja had done, so he did the next best thing, which was to break the soul into tiny blue glowing particles that disappeared. As Akihiko's body fell lifelessly to the floor, everyone was shocked and shocked. No one could believe what the blonde had done. Everyone looked down at Naruto with fear in their eyes, except for Team, who had seen him do it before. "Kitten, you must never make this man mad. I wasn't sure before, but now I know that he just used the power of one of the 6 paths," the Nibi told her container about Naruto's danger. Yugito began to hear sexy laughs in her head and said, "But it wouldn't hurt to try to get him for yourself. That's it, kitten. Your job from now on is to get into his pants and give me a litter of kittens, the 2. Tailed Biju told Yugito, making her blush. "Nibi. I don't even know the guy, and he just killed one of my teammates. Why would I even think about going out with him?" Yugito yelled at her tenant in her mind. The tenant laughed as she cut the line, saying, "Stupid perverted cat." Yugito sighed deeply. While this was going on, B and the Hachibi were talking to each other. "B, I think you should try to make friends with that blonde and get him to join your side," the Hachibi said. It was called the human path, and it was one of the 6 paths the Rikudo Sennin could take. If there is one path, there are bound to be 5 more. The sage could be coming back to life in this body, we don't know. I can also feel the power of the Biju in him, but it's like all 9 of them have mixed into one, along with some other chakra. The 8 tails warned his container, "I'm afraid this boy man could be the next Juubi no Kishin." B didn't know what to say because he had just been told that this genin could be the next sage of 6 path and the next 10 tails. This was too much for him to handle at the moment, so he would have to tell his brother in secret. On the other hand, Gaia was holding her head while Shukaku screamed in her head that her father was finally back and that she should drink his blood. "Dad is back. Father is back at last. Mother also wants his blood, Gaia. I want his blood for myself so I can never be without him again. Do it. Do it right now." The Ichibi screamed crazily to its container, who was trying to control the Biju's violent urges to kill. Shukaku finally gave up when she got tired and went back into her own thoughts. What did mother mean when she called this man, father? Gaia asked herself as she held her head in pain, which made her team look worried. Going back to the battle. C quickly used a healing jutsu to get himself ready to fight again, and then he threw 12 shuriken at Naruto. No need to dodge, the blonde Juubi used his Asura path to turn his skin into metal. It looked like C had finally hit Naruto, but Kazumi knew about his fight with Haku and how her senbon bounced off of his armored skin, so she wasn't too worried. The shuriken fell to the ground without any blood on them, just like she said it would. The shinobi with blonde hair smirked, pulled out a kunai with an explosive tag on it, and threw it at the demon with only one arm. Naruto smiled as he disappeared and reappeared high above C. I beat C, it's over. Jinten. The fall of Sonic. Naruto blurred into action as he shot down at C. Heel hit the ground and hit his head, but Naruto stopped himself so as not to hurt or kill C because, unlike the other Kumo shinobi, he had not done any harm to people. Huge clouds of brown dust formed around the two remaining fighters as the attack went off. Everyone held their breath as the cloud of dust started to thin out until they could see the outline of a man standing over another man. It was clear to everyone that Naruto had won the match easily. He was able to kill one of his opponents by taking away their soul, and then he knocked out C. The judge looked up at the board and said, the next match will be. Hayate said, Ino Yamanaka vs. Karui of Kumo, and then he got up to cough again. Naruto felt bad for him, but he wasn't a doctor and couldn't be sure that his energy wouldn't hurt or kill him because he wasn't in charge of it. He never found out how he died. The two kunoichi met on the ground as they came down the steps. As Karui got ready to fight the other genin, she held on to the handle of her sword. The two kunoichi looked at each other as if they were trying to learn as much as they could from each other. Hayate looked at them both and then put up his hands. He yelled, fight! And jumped back so he wouldn't get caught in the middle. Karui was the first to act. She charged at Ino with her sword fully drawn. Back in the academy, Ino would have been in trouble because she hadn't trained and was only interested in how she looked. But Naruto told her that he would only go on a date with her if she trained and became a real kunoichi. Since then, she had trained with Naruto every other weekend and with her team during the week. Ino ducked under the slash and did a quick genjutsu that made her invisible to anyone who didn't know dojutsu. Karui looked everywhere for Ino but couldn't find her at all. But as a trained kunoichi, she knew she had to jump out of the way. Karui was lucky that she was right, because Ino jumped over where she was and slammed her fist into the ground, making a good-sized hole for a genin. Naruto was smiling at Ino's show of strength, and Sarutobi couldn't help but look at him. I guess you taught her Tsunade-chan's technique for getting stronger, huh? Sarutobi asked himself as he looked down at the fight, which was getting fiercer. Ino was naturally flexible, so she was able to avoid every single attack that Karui made with her sword, no matter how good Karui was with it. Karui yelled, stand still. Through clenched teeth. He wanted to hit the blonde, but she wouldn't stay still. She saw Karui get more angry with each failed swing in the flat chest comment. Ino said with a big smirk, why would I do that? I have a love life unlike you flat chest and I'm sure Mew boyfriend wouldn't like it if I was all scared up. The fiery redhead yelled, shut up. As she charged her sword with lightning chakra. Ino laughed at how mad Karui was that she had made fun of her. Ino said, sorry flat chest, but I think it's time to end this. She then jumped back and did the hand signs for her family's trademark move. She said, Shintenshin no Jutsu as his body fell to the ground. The thought of Ino taking over Karui's body made her freeze. Ino's consciousnesses took over her and she clenched her teeth to show it. But in the end, Ino got the upper hand. Karui turned to Hayate and said, Proctor. While holding a kunai to her throat. The redhead said, I Karui give up. Hey everyone, Hayate called out, winner, Ino Yamanaka. People in the crowd cheered. It was time for Ino to leave the Just You and return to her own body. When Karui saw Ino on the ground, her eyes grew wide. She thought this was her chance, but B stopped her before she could do anything. B told his genin in rap, Karui-chan, stop your attack. It doesn't matter now that you've already lost. Karui quickly asked, what? How? Killer Bee then had to tell her how the battle ended as they walked back to where the other Kumo ninja was standing and Ino went back to her team. She cried out, damn it. As tears ran down her cheeks. She had done so well on these exams, but she had to give up against her will. Naruto walked over to the group and said, you know you shouldn't cry over spilled milk, right? The genin who wasn't Naruto Killer Bee tensed up when the blonde walked back over to his group. Anyone or anything that could make the Hachibi feel uneasy also makes him feel uneasy. The only people who had done that before were the respected third Raikage, his brother A when he cut off one of his horns, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Hashirama Senju, and now this boy. It was Karui who glared at him and said, what are you here to do? Brag about how one of your village's ninja beat another one of ours. The blonde demon raised his hands in defense. He shook his head and told her, "No, I just came here to tell you that you did good out there." Since she knew he wasn't going to make fun of her, she lowered her glare, but it was still there. "I must say that you must be quite skilled in Raiden manipulation to be able to use it in conjunction with a blade. But I have to ask, what effect were you going for, because from what I saw you were using it in a way which would paralyze your opponent, but I believe you were looking more for an effect which would boost your piercing power and speed, right?" Naruto went on. Karui raised an eyebrow and asked the blonde, "Yeah, I was going extra fast." "How did you know?" The blonde smiled back at the dark-skinned girl, who blushed a little. "I trained a bit with Raiden a bit, and from a few experiments I figured out that the way you conduct the electricity through your sword affects the result you get. For example, if you let your electricity run wild within the blade off your sword, you'll get an electrocution effect, while if you keep it controlled and spread evenly throughout the entire sword, you'll get more of paralyze effect, which is what you were getting. Furthermore, if you concentrate your lightning going up your blade and towards the tip will increase your piercing effect, and lastly, if you concentrate the lightning on the sharpened edge of the blade, it will increase the speed which the sword can cut through air and will give it a better ability to cut through armor and flesh." Naruto shared the idea with the group of genin. Why they use lightning chakra in their swords. When the three heard what Naruto had to say, their jaws dropped. It even caught Killer Bee off guard how much the blonde knew. The judge said, "The next match is between Shino Aburame and Shikamaru Naru." Shikamaru leaned against the building wall with his eyes closed and said, "I give up. There is no point in me fighting since I can't control all of Shino's bugs with my Kagemon no Jutsu. Even if I got Shino under my control, his bugs would still be active and would swarm me as soon as I catch Shino." The judge called out, "Winner, Shino Aburame. The next match is between Sayuri Uchiha and Kankuro of Suna." Hayate agreed with the reasoning. Kankuro jumped over the rails from where he was standing, and Sayuri did the same. I yelled, "Fight!" to start the fight between the Konoha and Suna ninja. Sayuri began the fight by making a series of hand gestures. Then she yelled, "Kaiten! Grand Fireball Jutsu!" and let out a big ball of fire from her mouth. It hit the Suna shinobi hard, but she dodged it. Sayuri didn't give Kankuro a chance to fight back. She took out 6 kunai and threw them at the person who was using the puppet. When Kankuro saw the weapons coming at him, he pulled out his own kunai and blocked the 6 projectiles with it before throwing it at Sayuri. The Uchiha woman flipped her backwards to avoid the kunai. She said, "Kaiten! Phoenix Flower Jutsu!" and then shot Kankuro a bunch of small fireballs. Suna genin saw this coming and switched places with a log that didn't get hurt. A few senbon flew over Sayuri's head, so she dove. That's what she thought because of the purple drops that came off the needles when they hit the wall. She turned around and charged at Kankuro when she saw him behind her. When she got close enough, she gave Kankuro a strong punch in the stomach, but 2 sets of arms quickly wrapped around her. And before Kankuri could do anything, she stood in for herself with a log. But then Kankuro's chest blades went right through the log. Kankuro used the old mouse trick, huh? Thank goodness Saw-chan got away in time, Naruto thought to himself as he watched the fight. And that was before Kankuro used his puppets. He was very impressed with how Sayuri was handling the battle so far. Let's see how you can deal with him now that he has his puppets out. Sayuri was already stronger than Sasuke when he was in Konoha. Kankuro was shown when the bundle on the puppets' backs was taken apart. "Well, I thought that last trick I set up would beat you, but since you were able to get out of it, I guess I'll have to do it myself," Kanukuro said with a smirk as he held Crow up with his chakra strings. Sayuri said to Kankuro as she used her Sharingan, "Let's see you try." Kankuro then sent Crow at Sayuri. Crow's hands turned into 4 big knives, which Kankuro used to try to stab the Uchiha. The Uchiha jumped to the side and kicked Crow in the side of the head, cutting him. Crow took off, but Kankuro caught it in midair, made it stable, and brought it back to himself just in time to block Sayuri's next attack. Crow was able to hit the girl with black hair with about a dozen poisoned senbon before she could get away. Sayuri dropped to her knees as she felt the poison spread through her body. Kankuro said with a smirk, "Give up now, and I'll give you the antidote." He could see that she was having a hard time breathing because the poison was killing her. Sayuri gasped as she stood back up and glared at the Sand Shinobi. I will not give up. I have to become strong so I can beat him." There was a seal Naruto had put on her that stopped the dark power of the curse mark from getting into her chakra stream. She heard a dark voice in her head yell, "Come on. Just use my power." The voice almost sounded like hers, but it had a dark and angry tone to it. The voice kept telling her, "You know you want my power. It's the only way you can win." It wanted her to use the power of the curse mark to break Naruto's seal on her. No. Never use the power of the curse mark, Naru-kun told Sayuri. She yelled back at the evil voice in her head, which laughed back at her like she was crazy. "Ha. That hypocrite told you not to use my power? Please, his chakra almost identical to my own, only far more potent. He isn't even human from what I can tell from his chakra. On top of that, his chakra is far more malicious than anything I could ever create. He is just scared of what you could become. He fears you because he knows you can become someone who can kill him." Dark Sayuri told her host. Sayuri felt herself fade away from the real world, and then she saw herself on a plain with blood, red grass and a red moon in the sky. Sayuri looked around the plain and asked, "Where am I?" Just black grass and a red sky was all that was there. As Dark Sayuri took shape in front of Sayuri, she said, "This is your mind, Sayuri Chan." She was an exact copy of herself, but her skin was paler and her eyes were yellow, like a snake. She covered herself with a black robe. One with the Kishin Fujin on it was around her neck. While the Uchiha looked at the seal with interest, Dark Sayuri said, "Come on. Take this collar off of me, and I'll give you the power you need to beat Itachi. Does it matter? Should you break Naru-kun's trust for power?" As she took a step toward Dark Sayuri, she thought to herself. "He's holding you back, Sayuri Chan. He wants you to be weak so that you never betray the village. Let go of this seal, and I'll give you everything you've ever wanted. I'll give you the power to get revenge on your clan and bring it into a new era of power." She kept tempting Sayuri as she walked slowly toward her and grabbed her collar. The thick haze in Sayuri's eyes showed how caught up she was. As Sayuri pulled on her collar, Dark Sayuri said with a big smile, "Do it." But Dark Sayuri was smacked away by a huge claw before she could fully rip the seal off. Sayuri woke up from the haze that had been covering her eyes. When Sayuri looked up, she saw a huge monster with 10 huge tails. Only one huge eye and a long tongue made the monster's skin look somewhat different from black. Its torso looked like a person and was covered in black scales. Its back and head were covered with spikes. As Sayuri took a few steps back from the huge monster, she yelled, "What the hell are you?" Dark Sayuri's laugh could be heard from where she was thrown. The dark version of Sayuri showed up in front of her. Sayuri's eyes got bigger as she looked up at the monster and heard, "Oh, you don't know? That's your dear lover Naruto's true form. Not possible. Naruto could not be that thing," she told herself in fear. Was Naruto telling them the truth, and was he really a monster that looked like a person? This is what Sayuri said, Naru-kun? The huge animal looked down at her when it turned to her. The huge creature spoke in a loud voice that shook the earth, "Chan, I'm sorry I kept this from you and Naru-chan. I didn't know how the two of you would react." Sayuri could tell by the sincerity in the monster's voice that it really was Naruto, just like her clone had said. When the huge animal lowered its head so that Sayuri could see its face. Face, it asked, "S. So that's really you, Naru-kun?" Sayuri looked into the huge, suffering eye. "Naruto, now a Juubi," told Sayuri, who was thinking, "Yes, I had to seal away the beast called the Juubi within myself a long time ago, but doing that turned me into this. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and I am the Naidem Juubi no Kishin." Naruto told Dark Sayuri, who was smiling because she had proven Naruto to be a monster, "I'll explain more to both you and Naru-chan back after the preliminary." She asked, "What are you looking at, monster?" with a funny tone in her voice. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, "Being tired, my seal may not have completely kept you out, but that doesn't mean I can't keep you even further away now that you're in Sayuri's mind." Dark Sayuri's eyes grew wide as Naruto grabbed her with one of his huge, clawed hands. Naruto spoke as the 9 tomo and his eyes swung wildly around the 3 inner circles. "Suffer in the Tsukiyomi." Dark Sayuri faded as she was sent deeper into Sayuri's mind. There, she would be stuck in the Tsukiyomi until it wore off, and since Naruto was at full power there, it would be a long time before Sayuri woke up from the nightmare he was giving her. Looking back at Sayuri, Naruto frowned and said, "I've completely stopped her. She won't try to influence you for at least a few months. Please don't hate me for who I am." He then spun his eye around again and sent Sayuri and himself out of the mine. Escape. The real world. As Sayuri's mind came back to the real world, she took a deep breath. Kankuro was able to use his puppet to hit her for a second while she thought about it. Sayuri moved out of the way. The poison that was running through her bloodstream was still making her body burn. She thought to herself, "I don't hate you, Naru-kun," as she looked up at Naruto out of the corner of her eye. This was her last thought before giving up the fight. She suddenly appeared in front of Kankuro with a shunshin that shocked many jonin and hit him hard with a kick that sent the sand shinobi flying. Sayuri jumped over Kankuro and hit him with a huge kick that sent the shinobi flying to the ground. Kankuro wasn't going to come back, so the referee called the match and Sayuri won. However, Sayuri fell back because of the poison in her blood. 4 medics came in and took the 2 to the tower hospital. In secret, Naruto made a copy of his shadow and sent it after Sayuro as a small mouse. Naruto thought the fight between Narumi and Neji would be good, even though he was sure Narumi would win. The 2 fighters jumped to the ground and waited for Hayate to start the fight. Neji was in his gentle fist stance and had already used his Byakugan. Neji charged at Narumi, who began making a long series of hand signs. Futon, great breakthrough. Narumi exhaled and threw a big gust of wind at the Hyuga, who just barely avoided the attack. Again, Neji charged forward and tried to block Narumi's chakra points. She quickly stepped in for the wall that had been broken during the other fights just as he was about to hit her. Neji, who was using a Byakugan, knew where she was as soon as she came back. He fired a gun at the blonde Kunoichi. Narumi hit the side of her left arm because she wasn't quick enough to avoid the blow. Narumi jumped away so that he wouldn't block another point. He laughed when he saw the Uzumaki hurt her arm and grab it. "Does it hurt, girl? You can't fight fate, and your fate is to lose at my hands." Neji yelled as he charged at Narumi. She used some of the Kyuubi's chakra to open her chakra point again and then dodged the Hyuga's attack. Hinata was staring down at Neji from the stands. The Hyuga heiress thought to herself, "Neji, I swear if you hurt her I will rip off your balls and shove them down your throat." Her anger then turned to a glare at Naruto, who was watching the battle without showing any emotion. She glared at the man who broke her heart and thought, "And I will get my Naru-chan back from you, jerk." He could feel the Hyuga's gaze on him. It really shocked him how different this Hinata was from the Hinata in his world. He had never seen a tsundere like this one before. Except for the woman she was in love with, she was cold and mean to everyone else. Naruto looked at the girl with blue hair and thought, "It looks like Kami loves to fuck with me." He briefly looked at Madara's Sharingan and then returned to the battle. Narumi made 25 copies of herself with the Shadow Clone Jutsu. The 25 copies charged at the Hyuga, who tensed up and waited for them all to get close. As soon as everyone was close enough, the pale-eyed teen began to spin quickly. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Neji called out as he was surrounded by a big blue dome of chakra. The blow pushed all of the clones back and spread them out. While the Hyuga was still rotating, Narumi charged up a Rasengan and charged at it. "Rasengan!" She yelled as she walked up to the teen with brown hair. But the Hyuga's quick reflexes helped him avoid most of the attack. However, the band that held his ponytail together tore, letting his hair fall out. Before Narumi could say anything, Neji was already standing there. "Fate has brought both of us to this moment, Namikaze-san. You are in my field of division, 8 trigram 60. 4 palms," Neji said, which surprised Hinata because she thought that the 64 palms only happened in the main branch. Neji said, 2 palms, as he hit the first 2 people. 4 palms, then 2 more hits. 8 palms meant that 4 more strikes would be given. He said, 16 palms, as he hit Narumi's body with 8 more blows. 30. 2 palm. Neji yelled, 60. 4 palm. As he hit Narumi 32 more times. He finished with a 2-handed thrust that sent Narumi flying into the building wall. Hinata looked very angry about what her cousin did to the girl she liked. Neji calmed down a bit and began to walk back up the stairs. Nazi said with a smug look, she's already down. We might as well call the match since she's not going to get back up. She stood up again and said, I'm not done yet. She had a red aura around her. As her eyes turned red and got small holes in them for pupils, her canines got longer and her nails got sharper. The sight made Naruto's eyes narrow. He didn't think his lover would have to use the Kyuubi so early in the tests, but he could see why. Also, Neji was stronger now than he was back in his world. He had the rotation in 60. 4 palms before this. Naruto sighed and thought, well, this match is over. The angry blonde punched Neji in the jaw before he could do anything. Chance doesn't decide what happens in my life. I decide what happens. Narumi yelled as she charged at Hyuga, who had been knocked out and was getting back up. He had a little line of blood coming out of his mouth. Narumi was about to attack, but Neji was able to get back up on his feet. As soon as the blonde got close enough, the teen with pale eyes began to spin quickly again. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki knew what was going to happen and tried to stop it, but it was too late. She was already moving too fast and hit the side of the dome, sending her flying backwards. Narumi took a step back again. Her clothes were torn, but she could still hide her modesty from everyone. As a thin line of blood ran down the middle of her face, she said, I'm not done yet. She made another Rasengan while her whole body screamed in pain. This one was much bigger and had a red tint than the last one. She yelled, Odama Rasengan, as she charged at the Hyuga again. Neji scowled when he saw her charging back at him. You don't learn, do you? Fate has decided me the winner. Rotation. The Hyuga yelled as the Namikaze pushed her huge Rasengan at him. They both used very powerful moves that clashed with each other. The sound of the two spiraling attacks hitting each other could be heard all over the room. The genin had to cover their ears with their hands to block out the sharp sound. An explosion of smoke marked the end of the fight. As they watched the smoke slowly move away from the scene, everyone held their breath. The first thing they saw was the shadow of a person with long hair. This person could be told apart from the two fighters at this point. When more of the dust cloud went away, the 2 bumps on the standing figure's chest could be seen. When the smoke cleared, Narumi, who was dressed in rags, was standing over Neji, who was also dressed in rags because he had lost. Everyone who clapped for the blonde heard Hayate say, winner Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto rushed over to his lover just as she was about to pass out and caught her before she hit the ground. Naruto told the Sandame, you did well, Naru. Chan. Now rest. The Sandame shrugged. The blonde quickly faded into thin air with his female counterpart. He then went to the hospital inside the tower to drop off Narumi and see how Inuko and Sayuri were doing, but not before making a copy of himself to watch the rest of the battles. When Naruto got to the big room, he went to the empty bed next to Sayuri, who was already asleep. He quickly used his diagnostic jutsu on the 2 girls to see if they were sick before going to check on Inuko. He was shocked to see that the Inuzuka heiress was already awake, even though she had bad burns. His girlfriend told him every week, hey Naruto. Kun. Hey, Inu. Chan. Don't use all your strength just yet. You're still hurt, Naruto told her as he used his healing jutsu to help the medical ninjas heal some of their burns. For some reason, Inuko couldn't help but moan at the way she felt all over as Naruto healed her with nature chakra. He frowned when he realized he couldn't heal all of her burns. He would have to let them heal on their own. He wasn't used to healing people, and even though his chakra healed people better than most medics, him or Sakura or Tsunade from his world could still heal people better. He said in a sad voice, sorry Inu. Chan, I can't heal you anymore. When the brunette smiled at him, it made him feel better. That the girl loved him just as much as he loved her warmed his heart. The dog girl smiled and said, it's okay, Naruto. Kun. I feel much better now that you fixed the worst of the burns. She asked him in such a sweet voice that she would hurt him if he lied, but can you please tell me what happened to your left arm? Naruto sighed and began to tell her what had happened in the Forest of Death and how Orochimaru had been involved. He even told her that Orochimaru was a Juubi, which she took much better than he thought she would. He was going to tell Narumi, Sayuri, Ino, Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Danzo, as well as anyone else he thought he could trust. 3 of them were his girlfriends, and the other 3 were key people in the village. Naruto asked the brunette, "So you don't think I'm a monster?" She said yes. Naruto. Kun. Centuries ago one of my ancestors mated with a dog demon which started our clan. How could I hate you for being what you are when my own clan stemmed off a demon? Besides, even if you are a Biju, you also a great guy and the man I love. Inuko said with plenty of love. After widening his eyes a little, Naruto smiled sweetly at her and said, "I love you too, Inu. Chan." He then leaned down for a quick kiss. Finally getting up the nerve to say what she wanted to, Inuko asked the blonde, N. Naruto. Kun, can I ask you something? The blonde smiled back at her. With a grin, Naruto asked, "But you just did?" "Yeah, ask away. Once I'm better, could you please take my..." She began, but added the last part in a whisper that Naruto, even with his super hearing, couldn't pick up. He could only hear the first sound of the word, which was a veer. Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, "Can you say that again?" "I couldn't hear you." She spoke in a low voice that Naruto had to strain to hear. I asked if you could take my virginity. I saw this and my eyes got really big. He did take both Sayuri and Narumi's virginity, but he had spent a lot more time with them than with Inuko because they were on the same team. He thought she might want to wait a while, though. Naruto smiled and said, "Sure." Naruto said, "It would be an honor to be with you," before he heard Inuko yawn a little. He put on a small genjutsu to help her sleep more and told her, "You're still tired and hurt. Get some more sleep." He went over to his other 2 girlfriends and started to heal them as best he could. It wasn't enough, though, and they had to stay in the hospital for a few more days, or maybe just 1 day for Narumi. He only had to wait for them to wake up before telling them about his new life as a Juubi. After that, in the waiting room for the judges, Naruto stood with the other preliminary winners. Someone named Yugito, Gaia, Tamari, Shino, Ino, and Hinata were all there. Sayuri and Narumi were still in the tower hospital, so they couldn't be there in person. Instead, they were paired together in the first round's final match. What had happened since Orochimaru's attack in the forest and what had happened before that had crossed his mind. In his world, everyone was stronger now, even if it was only by a small amount. Also, not everything happened the way he thought it would. Also, the fact that he was in this world had to change the order of events that would have happened. He helped Danzo see things his way and saved Haku and Zabuza. He also didn't realize how strong Sayuri's curse mark really was. He wasn't going to mess up this question. He thought to himself, "I'll have to tell them the truth." "Okay, each of you will draw a number to see who you will fight in the final round," Hayate said as he moved from Naruto on the left to Gaia on the right. The Naruto said, 3. I, said Hinata. Samui said, 2, in her usual cold way. I told Gaia, 4. Tamari got a 7. 8 inches was what Ino said out loud. 5 inches Shino said in a low voice. She held up her number and said, 6. The Hokage looked at the matches and nodded. They were lucky because if Naruto could kill Gaia before she changed, he and Danzo wouldn't have to fight Orochimaru by themselves. Even though they were still strong, they were so old in the world of shinobi that only Onoki the Tsuchikage was older. First up is Hinata Hyuga vs. Samui of Kumo, then Naruto Namikaze vs. Gaia of Sun, then Shino Aburame vs. Yugito Ni, then Ino Yamanaka vs. Tamari of Suna, and finally Sayuri Uchiha vs. Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. You all have a month to improve your skills since most of you have already shown some of them today. Now go rest, Hiruzen said as everyone left, except Naruto who wanted to stay behind and watch. Naruto told the old man, Gigi, I have something important to tell you and the others back at the tower. I think that with the events that are going to happen, I may have to reveal the truth about myself. He did this while showing the old man the stump that was his arm before it started to grow back at a fast rate, which surprised the cage and turned into a new arm. The old man said it was one of the most amazing and gross things he had ever seen. And you can believe him when he says he has seen some really gross things before, like Orochimaru's first experiments. As he looked at Naruto's new arm, the old man asked, Naruto. Kun, what did you just do? Naruto said as he put on his coat, I will tell you guys about one of my powers. After Sayuri's battle, I thought about it and realized that Orochimaru in this world might do something different from the one in my own, so I think it's best if I tell you guys the truth about who and what I am now rather than in the middle of a battle. Naruto sighed as he thought about how people had told him about his powers. They both agreed with Inuko that what he did didn't matter because they loved him for who he was. Before they left the tower in the Forest of Death and went to the secret meeting room in the Hokage's tower, the old man gave them a nod. Meeting room for the Hokage. 5 men sat around a round table with a map of Konoha on it in a dark room with only a few candles for light. It was made up of 5 people: Jiraiya, a shinobi; Danzo Shimura, the leader of Root Anbu and current Anbu commander; Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage; and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the second Juubi and current head of the Namikaze clan. Naruto was just done telling everyone what he was and what he could do because of it. It would be too mild to say that the 4 were shocked. Naruto told them that we were really the same as all the Bijus put together in one body. They were all shocked. Some people were afraid that the blonde could kill everyone in the village by himself, but they knew that the blonde hadn't done anything to hurt the village so far, and he promised to help them as long as they didn't turn on him. The Anbu captain asked the others, "So the plan is still going as planned?" And they all said yes. After that, the Anbu said, "I'll be off to start getting my men ready for the battle next month." He left the room through Shunshin. To the wise man with white hair, Naruto said, "Jiraiya-san, I need you to train Narumi for the next month. She is good, but not quite at the level she needs to be to fight Gaia or Temari." Jiraiya agreed. Even though the Jinchuriki was good, it wasn't even close to being as good as Orochimaru or the other members of the Akatsuki. With a big grin, Jiraiya said, "We'll do Naruto-kun." He then began to think about what he should teach the daughter of one of his students. The man with white hair said, "I'll teach her some new jutsu and some physical stuff." Naruto agreed, but then he glared at the pervert and said, "But if I find out that you wasted her time looking at girls, I'll beat the pervert out of you." The sage agreed, so Naruto made his threat. It was a bad idea to anger the strongest being in the world. "What are you going to do this month?" Danzo asked the blonde Biju, who turned to look at the man with the bandage. "I will be with my girls for the first week and then out of the village for the last 2 weeks for some special training that I can't do inside the village." Naruto replied to the Kage's query. It took the 4 more hours to finish making plans for how to defend and attack in the upcoming battle. After a week, as Naruto and Inuko walked toward her home in the Inuzuka compound, they were side by side. She was finally able to keep Naruto's promise to take her virginity now that she was no longer in the hospital.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.